do everything I can humanly do in my power tonight to be positive, optimistic, happy. But I do want to start off by kind of pointing out that, just switch it up. I do want to start out by pointing out that there's a lot around just now which should make us a little bit less than happy. And I think there is reason for us to be a little bit nervous about the immediate future and to focus our heads now, because this is going to be a hard fight, and it may be a slightly longer fight than some of us wanted, and we need to be realistic about where we are, why we're there, and what we need to do to get to the next place, what we need to do next. So, let me dive straight into some optimism, straight away, which is, actually, just before I do that, there's one point that I want to make here. I think it's probably useful to say this at the beginning to kind of get us, because I'll tell you a lot about what I'm about to talk about. As a political strategist, which has been my day job for the last 25 years, as a political strategist, I usually spend my time saying, I know where we need to get to, so how do we get there? That tends to be the process. I personally am in a funny place just now, which is, in the long term, I know where we want to get to. In the medium term, I'm a bit unsure. There's a complicated picture ahead of us, and I am not entirely sure where we need to get to next. But unusually, I'm absolutely clear on what the next steps are. So this is strange for me. I'm used to knowing where I get to and trying to focus on how to get there. And this time round, I find myself knowing what we need to do, and I'm not entirely sure where that takes us in our first stop, and I'll try and explain that as I go through, but I just wanted to say that out because I find it a slightly unusual thing. So, back, let's kick off with some optimism. This, without a doubt, Scottish independence is there for us to take. I have no doubt about that, and I am not saying this with my optimistic indie hat on. So, I'm an independent supporter, professional political strategist, and a lefty. These are all different things. These are all different parts of my life. I've done them at different times in different ways. I'm mostly going to talk tonight with my strategist's hat on. And I am saying, absolutely point blank, that having now looked at, we've just gone through, this is with the Scottish Independence Convention, the third round of voter attitude research work that I've been involved in. And while we should be aware that there are undoubtedly, no question, there are barriers. We have things we need to address if we're going to win it. Nevertheless, I find myself looking at it again and again, critically, and saying, this is ours to lose, not the other way around. So what do I mean by that? Okay, first of all, it's really useful if we could, all of us, clear from our minds the idea of unionists, for a very specific reason. Unionists are not the same as no voters. These are two different things, and we need to start dividing them. Unionists are like nationalists. They fundamentally believe this. Unionists would vote for the UK even if it was going to make them poorer. Just like a lot of us would vote for independence, even if it would make us a bit poorer, because we genuinely believe in it and believe in the long term. Unionists are hardening their opinion. If you look, on average, people who voted no on average are more no now than they were in 2014. You will have seen this in a few pieces of no campaign propaganda. That is true, but that's because there's about 20 to 25% of the Scottish population who are hard no, and they are becoming harder. So these are a group of people, they tend to be older, they're not exclusively, they do tend to be older. They've lived their whole lives in a Britain which was unchallenged, never felt a threat to them. They didn't even realise how threatened they felt by Scottish independence until it happened. And ever since then, they've become more no. If you look, and so I should probably just tell you, what we did was we did a round of focus groups. Don't diss focus groups, they're important. It's what you do with them that counts, not the talking to voters, always talk to voters. We did some focus groups, then we did a large-scale poll, and then we did some focus groups for something else in a similar area. And in the poll, in the big opinion poll, it was a large poll, what we did was, one of the questions we asked was, are you taking steps to protect yourself against Scottish independence? Now, this wasn't a serious question as in we wanted to know. This is used as an indicator to how much is somebody feeling themselves actively engaged in this now. And there is a proportion of unionist vote who are metaphorically in the back garden digging a bunker because the world's coming to an end because Scottish independence might come. Right, I can tell you point blank, there is literally nothing in the world that we could do to get those voters to change. Nothing, they're not coming any more than most of you here are going to be persuaded to vote for Theresa May and keep the UK together. We've got to forget them. So, number one, forget the unionists. Stop fighting them on the internet. Get off the Twitter. It's not doing any good. If they're arguing with you, they're not worth talking to. Because if they're arguing with you, they're not winnable. Because if they're winnable, they're sure as hell not arguing with you. Bluntly, they're not in the game at the moment. Then we get to no voters. Now, no voters are different than unionists. No voters are basically, well, let me explain why I say basically. I'm going to say specifically. One of the other things we did in this large opinion poll was used some standard marketing techniques. There's a series of measures which tell you certain things about the person that you're measuring. How do they behave? What do they think? What's their proclivities? What's their attitude to things? And the short version of it is that if you look at people who just voted no, so again, if you're doing the scale with 1 being strong unionist, 9 being strong indie support, these are fours and fives, just soft nose and kind of waving undecideds. If you look at them and you profile them, they don't look like unionists. Their profile, age, gender, but especially attitude to risk, expectation that public services are a good thing, the belief that we can collectively solve problems, they look like yes voters who didn't vote yes. They don't look like unionists. They are a different category. They're a different group of people, and we're not talking to them. This is the really important thing. We're not talking to that group of people. Come on to why that is in a second. Sorry, there'll be a lot of drink breaks in. So, if you then look at that group and you look at their likelihood, how much they are saying that they might listen to us again, it's strong. So they're not. There's a few points that I should probably make as well, because I'm doing a shorter version of this than I often do. There's a mistake that we make, which is to misunderstand the difference of moving opinion in a campaign and moving opinion outside a campaign. When you have a decision point, when there is a point when you have to make a decision, you will seek out information because you know you need to make a decision. If somebody knocks your door during a campaign and you're a couple of months away from a vote, you'll talk to them because you're forming an opinion, you're coming to a decision point. You will stop at a stall, a street stall. You'll stop at a street stall because you're informing yourself about a decision you have to make. If there is no decision point, you won't. You know this yourself. If I say to you, you've got to renew your insurance in 9 months, shall we start thinking about the options? You'll say no. If you're 9 months from your insurance renewal and you see an insurance stall, you won't look. You won't go. That's not a thing you'll do. We got a new Blu-ray player blew up. We had to get a new one. For about 6 weeks, I looked over and over again at an online retailer, not Amazon, to try and get the best deal on a Blu-ray I could. It was a thing I did quite a few times because I knew I was going to buy one. I bought it. I haven't looked at that website since. We do not seek out information if we do not need to make decisions. And this group of people do not need to make a decision. They will not stop at a street stall. They will not be grateful to be interrupted on a Saturday afternoon with a knock on the door saying, "Can I talk to you about independence?" That same group will do that during a campaign, but not just now. And if you look, it surprised me a bit, probably not as much as it might surprise you. If you look at the first group of focus group work that we did, one of the most striking things, and I should tell you that was 6 focus groups, 8 participants each, 2 hours per session, one in Hawick in the Borders, 2 in Edinburgh, 2 in Glasgow, 1 in Inverness. Good spread, all 4, 5, 6s in the scale. Out of all of those groups, barring one person who sneaked in who was a RIC activist, told lies to the people doing the session. Apart from that, this is a really sobering fact. Not one person could tell us anything about an ongoing independence campaign. The only awareness of our existence that they had at all was Nicola Sturgeon on the TV. End of story. That was it. Under prompting, I should say, of course, these were run by a university with independent facilitators, done properly, done professionally, no leading questions. In this one, the facilitator, being a little surprised by this, prodded a bit. A couple of them, under prodding, said, "Oh, wait a minute, the other day I was driving through the town, and about 300 yards ahead there was a queue of traffic, and I saw some salt tyres going past. Was that a bit? Was that like a march or something?" That's the level of penetration we're getting with these voters. They don't know we're still campaigning. A number of them expressed the view that 2 years ago, when Nicola Sturgeon cancelled the referendum after Brexit, they actually absorbed the idea it was finished. That we'd said, right, no more now, and it was off. We're not reaching this group, we're not getting to them. It's a shame, because there are a lot of points on which they are wavering. One of the participants in these groups, small businessman Hawick, probably profiles as one of the knowers of knows that we talked to. And he openly and actively offered the view that he thought Brexit was going to be bad for his business. He wasn't sure, but he thought it was. And if it played out like he thought it was going to play out, he would be open to hearing a new case for independence. He wasn't asked. He volunteered that. This group, can't say much about it just now, but the other group, the last piece of that opinion research of the 3 that I was talking about, has been some work involving the branding for a new national pro-independence campaign organisation that will be launching soon. I'll tell you about that in a second. And what they were primarily doing was looking at messages, brand, names for the organisation, mission statements, photographic treatment, all this kind of stuff to try and find out what was ringing their bell the most. And I've been working closely with the branding company, and what I was talking to them and about how they thought it would go, and they weren't allowed in the sessions, but they were outside one of the sessions. And what they said was the most encouraging thing for them was everybody left talking about the issues. These are no voters. On the way out, they were still talking about it on the way out to the lift, on the way down the stairs. They are engageable. They are people that we can talk to and whose minds we can change, but not doing what we're currently doing. That's been the problem. Okay, so what is it that they want from us? I mean, there's a long answer to this, and it's a number of things, but let me give you the short version, which is it's very straightforward. They are primarily, what's changed for them, as you'll pick up very quickly, is that they no longer see a status quo. There's a changing UK and a changing Scotland. They know that there's no status quo. That's what's changed for them. What they need to be persuaded of are 2 simple things. Number one, that in the event of Scottish independence, we know what we're doing. This is crucial. This one is driving me up the wall more than anything else just now. Post-Brexit, telling them we'll give you the details later is a phenomenal turn-off. That's what the Brexiters said. Easiest trade deal in the world ever. And I'm still bumping up against people in the indie movement who are saying things like, listen, if we give them too much detail, they'll just rip us apart on it, the other side. We should just not tell them anything about the currency or how we're going to do the borders and make that for afterwards. That I'm of no doubt, I never was, but I've been reinforcing this, I have no doubt that's just about the single worst thing that we could do to lose Scottish independence. The way that I would phrase this is, they know the plane's on fire. They know it. They're up the sky and the airplane's on fire. They know there's a good chance the ground would be safer for them. They can be persuaded. They're still not going without a parachute. They will not jump out the door without a parachute. They want to know that the transition will be safe for them. We can't give them the impression that we know what we're doing and we've planned. They will not jump. But there's another thing that we need to get them to do if we want them to jump, is, and I know this is going to sound obvious, but we're not doing it. We've got to persuade them that it's better for them. We have got to persuade them it would be better for their lives if there's Scottish independence. Know what you're doing, show me it's better for me. And if we do these two things, along with the third thing, which is with care, because as I'll probably mention in a minute, our bouncy positive attitude, look at you all, come on, bouncy positive attitude. Our bouncy positive attitude played extremely well with this group of people in the last referendum. Why don't I just tell you that story just now? Because this surprised me a bit. And this is mainly among people who voted no. They were asked how, the first round of public attitude research, we kept it very loose. We wanted them to tell us what they thought rather than be corralled by us too much into what we wanted to know. We wanted to see what they raised spontaneously. So there was only some general questions, and one of the key questions was, how did you feel about the no campaign? How did you feel about the yes campaign? Now this surprised me, not completely, it just surprised me to the extent. Every single participant in every single group, down to the nose of the no voters, hated the no campaign. They hated it. It was negative, it was elitist, it was talking downy, it was shouty, it was pessimistic, it was unpleasant. It worked, but they didn't like it. Meanwhile, and this is what surprised me, every one of them, even the ones who were profiling as the hardest headed, most rational, really liked the tone of the yes campaign. It was enthusiastic, it was addictive, it was engaging, it was buzzy. A couple of them said it was like a carnival. Now, why didn't they vote for us then? Right, this is the key, and this is what I want to really emphasise. I try to phrase it like this. Imagine it's like this. There's two parties on either side of a street, and they were all in a party over here and listening. Barry Manilow and nibbling twinklets and shit. But they're not having fun. It's really boring, and everybody's dull, and they just don't really enjoy it. And they're looking out the window, and over here across the road is the Yes Movement, the other party, us. It's bouncing, music great, everyone's having fun. They sat and they looked across the road at the other party, at us. That's the party they wanted to be at, but there was something stopping them from crossing the road. We think of it in those terms, because this is, I want to emphasise again, anyone who's been telling you that the mistake last time was that we were too optimistic, there's fairly strong evidence that's not the case. I mean, I'd say very strong evidence, because that was one of the things that we tested. We asked them, were we too optimistic last time? And what came out, they won't say this, but what came out was very simple. There's two axes. There's one that went optimistic, pessimistic. They really liked where we were. They thought that the kind of world we were talking about, China, the positivity, the idea that the future could be better, they were really attracted by that, they liked it. They did, and specifically, they didn't want us to be more pessimistic. You know, you'll have heard a few people who've said, oh, we need to be a bit more realistic, a bit more reassured, because they'll believe us better. That's not what they're saying. What they say, no, that's what we wanted to hear, but there's another axis. which ran, we totally believe you can deliver this and it'll definitely happen, down to you're blowing smoke at your ass and you don't think you can do it at all, you're just talking. That's the axis we weren't quite in the right place in. It's not that we're miles off, but they were expressing the view, that's what I want, I just wasn't convinced you could deliver it, or that you knew what you were doing, or even if they thought we could deliver it, they were persuaded by the negative suggestion that other negative things would happen to scupper it. So, right, I'm debating where to tell you this because it's a secret. Right, I'll anonymise this as far as I can. Another thing that came out which was quite surprising is the same message again when we were looking at this branding work. I'm trying to do this without giving anything away. It's launching in about 6 weeks. We don't really know the name or any of the details yet, but in the most general terms, we looked at 3 different kind of broad options for what this organisation would look like, feel like, etc. And I had in my head, if I say that one was kind of inclusive, one was kind of ruminative, think a bit, and one of them was really, come on. I thought the 2 that were going to play best was inclusive and ruminative. I thought those were the ones that would be most attractive. One of them came out most attractive was the, come on! That's what the no force. I've got to say even that caught me in the hole. I think we underestimate how much people want to be inspired. I think that we've forgotten that from the last campaign. I think that we've got our heads stuck in the independent group, that what everyone really wants is the soggy centre. Caution, safeness, oh Brexit, let's just play it safe. I mean, I'm genuinely looking at the evidence in this, I don't see it. That might be true of the negative unionist 70-something, you know, got a good pension, big house, doesn't want to be bothered. But they're not our target vote. With the rest, they're saying, inspire me, or at least if I'm going to do this, you need to give me a buzz. So let's not lose the tone of the yes movement. We've just got to, so we don't have to focus on that, we've got to focus on the other axis. We have to persuade them that we know what we're doing. Now, unfortunately, I didn't bring any of the books up, because my head's still Common Weal, but this is why we put so much work with Common Weal in the white paper project in the How to Start a New Country book. If you've not got it, it's only 10 quid. It's online, allofusfirst.org in the shop. I beg you, if you're serious about independence, have a look at it. See what we've done with it. It's a neutral piece of work which says, what does a normal country have by way of its internal institutions? What is the structures that make a country work? Which ones do we have? Which ones do we partially have? Which ones don't we have? How do we build up the ones that we've partially got, and how do we replace the ones that we don't have? And then how do we do it all, project manage it and deliver it? So we did all of this over the course of 2 years, and I'm really confused that we can answer it all. I mean, a couple of them are tricky. Particularly the one where it gets really nasty for us during a campaign are areas where it relies on negotiation with another partner, because by nature they won't negotiate with us until afterwards. So how long will it take to get into the European Union? Could be in the EEA in a matter of months, which would put us in the single market, according to the rules. According to the rules, it could take 5 years, 6 years, 7 years from application to get into the EU, but the EU is no flexible when it wants to be, and it might not be that. It could be faster. So there's a number of issues which are tricky because we can't answer them on our own, but most of the big issues we can answer. We need to come to these answers, and I'm going to say one thing with my fucking angry face on. I'm exhausted. I don't know what to do anymore with this. I have spoken to everybody I can think to speak to. I have begged them to take this research work seriously, the work that says they need as answers. I have begged them to get on with coming up with some core basic answers to questions we need to answer. What currency? What are you doing in the border? How are you entering the European Union? What are you doing about armed forces, the Coast Guard, all this stuff? Begging people to take this seriously, but it can just keep getting kicked down the road and down the road and down the road. And my biggest fear is we cannot start in earnest, in my belief, we cannot start in earnest of really moving people if we can't answer basic questions for ourselves. We can't tell ourselves this is the currency we're going to use and this is how we're going to go about it. We've need business knocking folks' doors. You really are wasting their Saturday afternoon if you're knocking the door and their opening question is, right, what's the currency? And you go, something. I'd be, seriously, I mean, let's put it like this. If a Jehovah's Witness knocked the door and was equivocal about whether there's a God or not, I'd be, why are you here? Why are you at my door on a Saturday afternoon selling me a God that you're not convinced in yourself? We need to get answers to these questions before we go full-fledged again. There's things we can do, but to go full-fledged, before we can really crack this, we need to be able to answer these questions. And if we don't take this, I've got some thoughts about how this might be compelled to happen faster. But until we do this, until we can all sit down with something that we're all feeling roughly happy with and say, yep, I can sell that at the doorsteps and I can answer the basic questions, we're vulnerable. We're not ready for a proper fight, for a proper campaign. And this is one thing I want to say, we're not. Anyone who thinks that we can fight a campaign effectively 6 months from now from where we stand now, I'd contest that. I don't think that's right. I think we've got some work to do before we can do that. And for 4 years now, I mean, I'm obsessive. I drove 4 miles up here to talk to you. I've a really sore throat because I said I would, you know. I get that, but I've been trying to get, I mean, basically I was nipping people in December 2014, come on, we need to get this fixed. And we don't feel, it doesn't feel to me like we've got any closer with that. So that's frustrating me. We need to cover that. And I mean, again, there's not many things that would make me strangle an indie supporter. But if someone tells me we can bluff this, that we can tell them what sometime after a year, or a line that I've heard, just tell them sterling and don't answer any other questions. What now? Have you done this? Have you been out there? Have you met anybody? I did 250 public meetings. And I can promise you there was always a follow-up question if you said, oh, it's sterling, don't ask me anymore. We can't go out like this. Right, so let's say we've got that. Let's say we've got that. We know what we're doing. We can tell people in a cogent way how we do this. What then? Right. One thing that we should be more conscious of than we were last time is the negative case. It is crucial, and I cannot say this enough, it is crucial that we remember that nobody will vote for independence out of fear. And this is just the psychology of decision making. If you scare somebody, they go backwards. You can't scare somebody over the end of a cliff. You can shove them, they won't thank you. You can persuade them, you can enthuse them, you can con them. You can't scare someone over the end of a cliff. It's not how decision making works. People are much more likely to close down and pick the status quo if you make them afraid. That's why the Yes campaign must be positive. And incidentally, on the side, that's one of the reasons why I say again that the Growth Commission's come from the wrong place in this. It's convinced that what people want is a kind of steady as she goes. There's no cliff. It's okay. That's not how decision making works. People don't make decisions in those ways. We've got to give them a reason to take the jump, to take the leap. And it's not faith. Faith is a leap. We have faith. Faith is a leap without a reason. That's roughly the definition of faith. We've got to make them believe it's better for them to take the step. But, last time round we were far too shy to have digs at the UK. It's a mistake. It's wrong. I wrestled for quite a while with Yes Scotland. People say, hold on a second, don't you think we should be telling them that they're living in the country with the worst state pension in Europe? And people in Yes Scotland say, oh no, we can't do that because then we'll be expected to set out a proposal for how we replace it and how we fund it. I says, yank, really? Just stick a sticker on the wall, worst state pension in Europe. Oh no, then we need to put out a spreadsheet. Maybe you won't. This is not, but this is not how that's going to work. Just raise that awareness. We need to do that a lot more. The way that I phrase it, and this is a mistake again that we've made because we're enthusiastic, is with the rip it in two model. So this is the idea, there's a bit of cloth, the way we get through it, the way we get past it, it's rip it in two and straight through the middle. Most people don't make decisions like that. What we actually need to do is gently, over not a massive period of time, but over a period of time, find the loose threads and gently pull at them. The loose threads are all over the place. Once again, I didn't go to the focus groups because I don't want to bias them, but I've been through in detail all of the transcripts. They're all written down and transcribed. And I can tell you right now, you do not need to prompt no voters to come up with problems with the UK. They are finding them all by themselves. We do not have to be heavy-handed about this. We just need to tease it out a bit more. We just need to start telling the stories about why Britain's not brilliant for them better. And then we've got to get into the positive case. We have got to enthuse them about independence. Now, remember when I said we need to make them believe this will be better for them? Right, I didn't want to give you the impression that we're back into spreadsheets. £2,000 better off in 5 years. One of the most startling things for me as a political strategist, looking at what happened in those focus groups, is a massive change in how people are, or at least how people think they are making decisions. I should mention as well that most people don't actually know how they make decisions. A lot of you think you calculate decisions. You don't. All decisions are emotional. You may check them rationally, but believe me, whether it's shoes or a sports car, those decisions are made the second you see them. And then you rapidly backfill your reason for why you need it. Oh, you know what, my car's a bit, no, it's a midlife crisis, chief. Just accept it, you know, it's that's what it actually is. And no matter what you tell yourself, that is what it is. So, but the way people are telling themselves to make decisions, if you looked 10 years ago, most people would sit and say things like, I want to assess the numbers. They would say something like this, I want to see the numbers, show me the numbers, something like that. What's really interesting is, everybody picked up on that, so everyone's been throwing numbers at everybody for the last 20 years. And again, if I go back to that white businessman, this was really fascinating, because what he said, at one point someone said to him, he said, I want to be able to make a rational decision. What would help you do that? More information. Oh right, is that statistics, numbers, facts? He said, no. I said, I don't believe them. He said, what? Not even something like GDP. He goes, no, GDP doesn't mean nothing to me. I said, oh, I took a step back. You're a small businessman who's extolling your virtues as a rational decision maker, and you don't believe in GDP. We need to stay away from the numbers. The one time that numbers were used in a focus group was telling. I think I said there was a RIC activist that sneaked in into the Inverness group. Shouldn't have been there. And at one point, somebody around the table, the conversation was going really well. You know this, you can tell people are open, engaged, talking, bouncing between. One point, someone had expressed some doubt about something in the independence case. What happened was the RIC activist pulled out his big book of indie facts and started firing numbers at them. This is why you don't put bloody activists in focus groups, they ruin it. The whole group closed down. The second he started barking numbers at them, arms folded, bodies closed off, and you can see it. For the next 5 minutes, the conversation comes to a close. We've got to stop imagining that we can number people to death. We have to, and this is one of the most important things I hope people will take from tonight. It's all about stories. So this is the big change in international campaign theory. And if you look now, what people used to have was the idea of sound bites. Sound bites were the thing. You capture people with a little phrase which resonates with their core values. And then it turns out that they're shallow and people got far too used to them. They don't work like they used to. And that used to go in parallel with numbers. Remember that time that you couldn't go anywhere without there being a 5 list? Really, Blair started that with the pledge card. Here's 5 things with numbers that you can believe. Well, promise nobody believes that anymore. What is by far the most influential thing in getting someone to change their opinion on a subject just now are stories. Now, I mean this in a very specific way. A story is something that starts one place and ends somewhere else. My partner's a filmmaker. She's in the kind of indie avant-garde side of things, and every so often we watch one of those incredibly slow foreign films where it's about character development. And we've got to watch as somebody learns about the inner truth. And she says, I quite like the story. I said, that wasn't a fucking story. He got up in the morning, it was exactly the same as he finished. He finished exactly the same as he started, but there was lots of really, really attractive black and white shots at the back of his head. That's not a story. A story starts one place and ends another place, and the purpose of the story is like a taxi. It takes you from one to the other. A story is a moving device. It takes you from one place to another. It takes you from once upon a time to happily ever after. And an effective story, which is what the advertisers do, I'll say this again, learn from those who do it well. What we are trying to do is the same as marketers, it's the same as advertisers, it's the same as political strategists, it's the same as fundraisers, it's the same skill set. You want to move somebody from here to over there. You want them to start off not knowing what shake and vac is. It's a classic example. I mean, talcum powder for your carpet. Stupid idea, as we can tell by the fact it doesn't exist anymore. And yet they told this crazy story about how their house would smell fresh forever. And you started from once upon a time, I didn't know there was such a thing as shake and vac. I never really bought it. That stupid song. I bet you every person here can sing it. 30 years down the road. Remember, this is one of the things that I learned way, way back. Cool and clever doesn't work half as well as, fuck, is that still in my head? just generally, it's worth remembering that. And that's what a story does. It tells you, it moves you from one place to another. And the other thing about what most of the campaign theory at the moment suggests, the really good stuff, is, do you know who the star of every story is? Well, he's a grey-haired, speckled, bearded guy that runs a think tank and has pet ducks. Because it's all about me. Or at least it is, if you're talking to me. If we're talking to you, it's all about you. A story whose hero is not the person you're talking to is the wrong story. I've seen it. This is another slight problem that I've got. Well, no, it's not slight. It's not a problem I've got with the Growth Commission. Let me actually forget the Growth Commission for a second. It was really telling in one of the focus groups when one of the participants openly said, you know, I kept hearing about how it would be better for my children, like I'm indeed. You know, this is a weird thing, stop telling folk it's going to be good for their kids. Start telling them it's going to be good for them. You know, I know that sounds daft, we all love our kids. I want the future to be good for my kids, but I've got at least another 30 or 40 years in me yet. I want to hear it's good for me. So just the hero of every story is the person you're talking to. You've got to think about telling a story about their life as it feels now and as they wish it would be. And if we do these stories better, they really work. And I'll give you one example of how to do this with aplomb, and I don't agree with cause, but my God, they did it well. The obvious right, okay, I'll tell you the full story if you don't know this. The Leave campaign and the Brexit vote was governed by a group of politicians who were absolutely and utterly convinced that the slogan of the Leave campaign was going to be "Go Global." Go Global. Why? Because they were convinced the problem was closed off mentality, parochialism, Little England, that's what they need. We need to deal with that. Right? That's what rich people see when they see a Leave campaign. For the Leave people, thankfully, they had a strategist who was much better and literally just ignored them. Literally just ignored them. He wrote something which I adored afterwards, because he's right. And what he said, this is one of the truest things I've ever heard. What he said was, if you offer a politician two choices, you can lose conventionally, or you can win, or have a chance of winning unconventionally, which is to say, put a shirt and tie on and you lose, put a monkey suit on and you've got a fighting chance of winning. The politician will choose to lose conventionally every time. It's part of the job. Once you put a monkey suit on, you think you can't go back. so they want to win conventionally. And he said, this is rubbish, this is not who, we're not trying to win politicians. So the obvious slogan was take control, right? So obviously, in most campaign theory, the theory goes that the fewer words the better. Take control. Say for that, what's that? What's take control? It is one more barked instruction. Being barked at a group of people who are pissed off at rich folk, powerful folk, the elites, telling them what to do. What happens if you stick the word back in? It's instantly a story. Back makes a statement, an instruction, a story. Once upon a time, that's what the back means. Once upon a time, you had power. You used to be in control. You were a proud man or woman in a proud country. And then something happened and your control was taken away from you. And now you have the opportunity to stick two fingers up at the person, the anonymous person who took it away from you, regain it and be proud once again. That's the power of back in that statement. That's why the Leave campaign was so overwhelmingly, massively cleverer and better than the Remain campaign, lies and all, because they knew what they were doing. We cannot do that. We can't start using take back control. I know everybody wants to see once somebody wins with a slogan, it's over. Can't use it again. If I had to hear one more Obama fake yes we can after they won, I might say stop. Slogans are one. I can't do what would they call it? Sprinkling back and take the freshness back and sprinkling. It's done. Got to move on. You can learn from it. We need to be much better at telling stories. We need to start taking the people that we are talking to, tell them stories, brief, short, sharp stories about where they are now and where they wish they could be, and how they can then fill in much more of the blanks about how they get themselves there. How do we do it? Because the media is against us. We know this, right? Everyone is. Right, so this is probably the other big learning point. I'm begging everybody, please get off social media. It's not doing any good whatsoever. We've developed this model in our heads that we think is how you win political campaigns. And it's a boxing model. This is how we think it works. We get in the ring, with Willie Rennie, and the entire Scottish population are outside watching this. And all we've got to do is get a real thought. If we can just put him on the canvas, knock him flat out cold, boom. Willie Rennie goes down, we do this, the whole of Scotland goes mad, independence. This is the model that we are using. So we tested this to see, not exactly it. We tested to find out what it looked like. Here's what's happening, right? Virtually nobody is staying at the end of the bout, because what they're seeing is not us prancing about the ring. But see, they're just watching. The players are rolling about in the mud, poking each other in the eye. They're off. They're going away. Even the ones that stay to the end aren't often clear who won. This boxing model is a delusion of activists. They're all looking at us. They're all looking at us. Everybody in Scotland's looking at us. Look at them all looking at us. It's what we do. This is wrong. This is not right. They're not looking at us. They're looking at their kids. They're looking at their loved ones. They're looking at their car, their garden, their knitting, whatever it is. They're not looking at us. And they're not saying, please, could you be even more aggressive towards a unionist for me? Oh, thanks. That is not what they're asking us for. It's a stupid hobby we've got into because fighting unionists feels fun when there's nothing else to do. Every time we do it, we lose. Unionists, they're nothing to do with us. Right, so what should we be doing then? Think of it way more like a jury trial. We are in a conversation with the jury. We are not arguing with the prosecution lawyer. We're in a conversation with the jury. We know what he's doing. We're paying attention. When he says things about the case, we take notes and we challenge it, but not to him. We're not talking to him, we're talking to them. We've got to stop fighting unionists. It's a waste of our time. And it enables them to create their story is all about conflict, division, nastiness, and eye gouging. And almost like, I don't know, almost like lemmings, we've fallen into this trap. You know, I'm going to say we've got to stop constant BBC bashing. I'm a lefty. The BBC's not on my side. I know. It wasn't on my side 10 years ago, and it wasn't on my side 20 years ago. It was never been on my side. CND, as a peace activist, we never got a kind of shout at the bloody telly. My parents were anti-apartheid, they never got a shout at the telly. The BBC's the British establishment. If you just discovered that, Jesus, what were you doing beforehand? Shouting at the BBC is certainly not making Wavering Yes voters go, maybe I should, maybe they do know what they're doing with the border because they just call Jackie Bird a name. You've got to stop this stuff. It isn't helping. So what does help? How do we do it if we don't do it at the beginning? Again, there is a really substantial piece of new international campaign theory in this one. It mostly comes from, it was best formulated in the Bernie Sanders campaign. And I know Bernie's a lefty, and I know I'm a lefty, and people quite often think, lefty. It's nothing to do with lefty. It's the fact that he started at about 2% in the polls and nearly won in the space of 6 months with no media coverage at all. Until he was really snapping at Clinton's heels, he got no media, none. And yet, he nearly took her out. How? Because they didn't obsess with that elite game of posh people on the telly sparring it out. They did something else altogether. What they did was, they recognised that the most important, you remember how I was saying earlier on that kind of factual authority figure process of making a decision is gone. It used to be the case, certainly up into the 80s, that the primary way that you could tell if what someone in Britain would think would be whether they aligned to Tory or Labour. So it was called cues, not like a play, like a stage play cue. You took a cue from the person that you were culturally affiliated to. You're a trade unionist, you were Labour, you're a landowner, you were Tory, whatever. And if you weren't sure whether you liked this new thing, you largely came to a conclusion on it by looking to the person that you identified with affiliated and what they thought. So GM crops come out, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Is it good for the poor? Is it bad for the environment? I don't know. So you'd look up and you would take a cue from whoever you identified most with. Problem is, public's not identifying with leaders anymore. So that's gone. That was startling for me. Nobody appears to be taking cues from political leaders unless they're already activists. And there were no activists in the group we were looking at. So they think they're making their decisions rationally, but one of the primary factors in how they're actually making their decisions is peer following. They are following their peers. Everybody else, like me, inverted commas, thinks this thing. I should probably think that thing too, right? Now, I think this hit us hard, in particularly older women in the last referendum. I think there was this process quite quickly, and I know this, my auntie started off as a no voter, not the political no family, started off as a no voter, and gradually basically she got more and more pissed off at the no campaign, and eventually George Osborne just pushed her over the edge and she flipped. But she's still a yes voter, but really genuinely she found it difficult at her sewing bee because she was the only one, and the group mentality thing made it difficult for her. She wasn't yearning for another referendum in 2016, I can tell you. This is a very important factor. What do people like me think? This is what the Bernie Sanders campaign identified. This is what they did. And this is the thing that I think this is the single biggest transformational thing for the grassroots of the independence movement to learn this lesson. It is not about long, deep conversations between an activist and a target voter. It's about what the target voters are saying to each other. This is the crucial thing. great if we can actively go out and meet everybody and tell them a good story. But what changes their mind is when they start telling that story between themselves. It's when people start to say, "Hey, did you see that thing?" And they start using their language. This is where we've failed utterly, totally, abysmally, and with no redeeming feature. In the focus groups, throughout them, virtually every person in virtually every group, at some point over the 2 hours, fired back at us a no campaign slogan from post 2014. Now is not the time, it was divisive, settled for a generation, everything that you've heard, even down to Ellon, on with the day job, it's all obsession. Again and again and again and again. Do you know how many identifiable post-2014 yes snippets we could identify? 0, not a single one. Why? Can anybody in here give me one? There's one, but the big enough, rich enough, smart enough. That's the closest that we've come to a slogan. And
it's so crap.
well, the problem is, it's exactly crap. But the slight problem is that for me, this is for folk watching, that's big enough, smart enough, rich enough. The problem with that is it's a bit meta. For those that know what this means, it's a pun on our old slogan. I mean, this is fairly far. I mean, the principle is right, but it's fairly far up our own arseholes when our new slogan is a smart-arsed wordplay on our old slogan. I mean, that's what it is. If we'd used that first time round during the campaign, it would have been really good. But we're joking with ourselves over this. There's been none, there is none, there's no campaign, there's no messaging, there's nothing. The only thing that we reached them with in the whole last 3 years was, we want another referendum. They know that for sure, because that's all we talked about. You can just about get them to do the ripped out the EU against our will thing. But even that phraseology will not come back. We say ripped out, which is aggressive, and what we want to say, it's not being picked up. They're not owning this language. So, let me tell you how the Sanders campaign did it. We've got to do this. Apart from the fact they had bloody messages, they had content. They weren't just saying, all we need to do is call another referendum and do the same thing we did last time, we'll add in our 10 points victory. There's no way they had content, they had messages, they had stories, they had a lot of stuff. But they did not expect people to go and have 15 or 20-minute conversations with people. They did not do what we are doing. Rather than, so what they did was, they got people to come to a town hall meeting like this. So it started. It's America, bigger numbers, bigger place, the whole thing, but they started with some town hall meetings like this. There's a few hundred people who were interested. And they ran them over what the strategy was, how they were going to win it, how they were going to do it. They enthused them and they explained it to them so they fully understood what was going to happen. And then they did a simple thing which they said, right, away home, every one of you, have a wee party, dinner party, kids' room, park, pub, something, and get the 10 people who you think are most sympathetic. Bring them in. Get in the room, tell them the strategy, see if they'd be interested. They did this for a couple of months, and the outcome of this was all over the United States, every single state, they were holding rallies with 50, 60, 70,000 people in football stadiums. In the space of 3 months, 4 months of work. And how? What did they do that we don't? The strategy was fairly simple. They made it sound fun and interesting. What do we do? Go out in the rain. Go out in the rain and bash a door and really harangue some woman you ken for 15 minutes on the doorstep because you got a vote right the last time. Hey, let's do that then. We make campaigning sound really difficult, really not pleasant. It's all about shoe leather and skint knuckles. It's because we're Scottish. I think everybody likes that. What they said was, listen, don't worry about it, it's not hard to be a Bernie Sanders activist. Just remember these 5 words, these 5 statements and use them anytime you can, when it comes up naturally. So they were, it was the kind of, I can't remember the exact statements, but the bankers were ripping us off, Jane, it's no time we should do something about it. What's that? They remembered that. And they remembered that if they're at the water cooler at work, they're picking up the beans for school and they're in a chat with the other mum, and the other mum says, oh God, my bank, I'm pissed off because that's right, I'm supposed to say, aye, the bank is right, sometime we did something about that. You seen that, Bernie Sanders? So they did. That was it. They made it easy to be an activist by reminding them to learn a strategy that everybody worked of a small number of messages that went human viral. Not internet viral, not social media viral, human viral. They were passing this along. I contend we do not need 10,000 independence activists in Scotland willing to knock a door and talk for 10 minutes. What we need is 250,000 people who believe in independence, who are willing to learn 5 short phrases and remember how and when to use them, and do it relentlessly over and over. That's not all there's more to that than the Bernie Sanders campaign. They were very clever at organising. So for example, it's worth knowing that if you have an influential person in your community, converting them is better than converting another 30 people. If you've got I keep saying lollipop lady, I'm positive it's not lollipop lady anymore, it'll be something else. Crossing guard is how they call it in America. Crossing patrol. Lollipop ladies leave in. If your crossing patrol officer is really friendly, chatty, exuberant local character, and he or she is ready and prepared like this, it's like a kind of inverse positive typhoid Mary. It's there every day. Every day she's infecting people with enthusiasm. He or she is infecting people with enthusiasm, with their sense of possibility. And each of them, once enthused, well, whether they know it or not, use the same ideas in their conversations. So focusing and organising really well, but also reporting back. They trained people easily on how to tell you how they were getting on, how many contacts, how many people they spoke to, who they reached, how had they done it. Once again, they made it easy and fun. These big rallies were a buzz. We tend to do one of two things. We just have a rally that's a buzz and really gets us G'd up, or do this, sit and listen to some specky idiot for 2 hours going on about decision points, and we don't do the middle thing. We don't do the make it easy. We have got to understand that we've got to own not our conversations, we've got to own their conversations. We have got to own the conversations on this subject which are had by our target voters in the places where they live all the time. We can't do it like this. There are certain things that you need to do to put this together. Number one, you need the messages. And number two, you need to facilitate this. This doesn't just happen. Somebody needs to put this together. And that's the other error that we've made. And in this one, I say this with all the love. I mean, I really do. The Yes Movement means an enormous amount to me. In the year, I'm sure for many of you as well, was utterly defining in my life. I'll never look back on it in anything other than great love. The grassroots were amazing. But we got into this idea that, okay, now we can just do it like a sequence of guerrilla movements all over the country. We can, but not without coordination. If we don't push in the same direction, we will end up pushing against each other. If we've all doing different messaging up here than what they're doing down there, and some messaging can be tailored, for sure, but if we're all talking about different things, nothing goes viral, nothing spreads, nothing becomes a key talking point. We need to coordinate, we need materials, we need research, we need backup. All of these things need to happen. On this point, I'm positive they're going to happen. I'll tell you about that in a second. But, I said I wasn't going to talk for too long. I feel like I've talked too long already. I haven't even started with some of the stuff I was going to say there. But, and this is the toughest thing, apart from get off your social media and stop fighting unionists, that I know some of you will fight that. I find that a cold turkey come down. But apart from that, The hardest thing to say is, and I've been thinking this for quite a while, I suspected it strongly, and then I saw the first round of voter attitude stuff, and I started to suspect it even more strongly. I am now 100%, and this is tough, we need to leave yes behind. And I know that's hard, because I know a lot of us are deeply vested in the idea of yes, the message of yes, but it's not working. And in fact, it's now becoming counterproductive. Do you remember when I was talking about the two parties, the no party and the yes party? First of all, it appears that when our key target groups are seeing yes, it's like a reminder of what they were and what they did. It's become exclusive. It's turning them away. Another group have just heard it too many times. When they see it, the second they see it, it's like, I'm about to get harangued on that again. It's a throwback. We've got to remember this. Yes is deep in our heart. For most people now, yes is a historical curiosity from 5 years ago. It's not in their lives now. They're not living yes. I had already been 95%. I was 80% of the way there after the first lot of attitude research. I was about 95% of the way there recently. It's okay for us. There's a yes t-shirt on the back here for those. It's okay for us, but come on this. And then in the latest round of work, I was taken aback by how negatively people responded. They were responding positively to this branding work. They knew it was about independence. We told them it was about independence. We told them the mission statements of each of the possible brand names, the organisation names, and the graphics, and the photography and everything. We told them, they knew it was independence, and they were happily engaging with it, actually enthusiastically in some cases. There were, I'd say, 3 things that acted as major turn-offs for them. One was anything that was didactic, telling them. That's why, remember I said the ruminative one. We thought it was suggesting the opportunity for us all to rethink and, reconsider, and they read it as, you got it wrong, go back into the corner and don't come out till you get it right. They don't tell anybody they were wrong, very bad idea. The other 2 things, which are getting, I wasn't that surprised that there was one photograph in a yellow lanyard. I cannot begin to tell you how much of a turn-off to our core target audience groups any form of organised political party is. This is not an era. Remember, the number of people who warmly identify with the political party is small. I was quite surprised by how negative some of the reactions are. If I tell you that the photograph in particular that I'm referring to here, being aware of the prejudicing possibility of a party political logo, the graphic design company actually photoshopped it out. So it didn't actually have a party political thing at all, but they couldn't photoshop out the yellow lanyard. All they saw was the yellow band lanyard. Fucking that's it. We cannot do this through political parties alone. In fact, they're almost counterproductive with our core target audience. That didn't surprise me, only the strength of opinion. What did surprise me was quite a lot of negatives when they saw happy smiling young women. Looked such a positive image to me with their I t-shirt and their yes t-shirt. Oh, I know that again. We need to draw a line under the whole campaign. If they think we're refighting an old fight, they're out the door. They're not stopping. We need to start again. We need to take a big pen and say, right, we get it. We didn't persuade you. We know, we get it. We didn't persuade you. So here we are again. We're starting again. We're building a new case. We're building a new brand, a new message. It's a new era. We're starting again. This is not going to be easy, and we can keep yesing for ourselves. It's fine if it's just for us. We're going to have to start to come around to the idea that the people we need to talk to will cross the road if they see us in yes gear, because it reminds them of the party they didn't go to. It makes them feel bad about themselves and regretful. On top of which, the next referendum will not be yes, no. If we assume that the next referendum will be something like leave, remain, the practice in international referendums now is don't use yes, it is a biasing word. Then people tend to see yes more positively, don't use it anymore. It will not be a yes, no referendum anyway. we need to move away from that. It doesn't have to be overnight. I tell you what is encouraging though, we don't have to move away from salt tyres. That's different. There was one woman who came out and said, oh no, she openly said, well no, I don't have any problem with the salt tyre. I'm a no voter, I don't think there's any, she said, I don't think there's much chance of change, but when I'm at Murrayfield, I'm proud to wave the flag. And what's really interesting is, because another thing that you'll all know for certain, is that we've got to tone down the Scottishness when we're talking to no voters. Because if we're too cookie Scottish, it just turns them off. Aye, that's what the middle class political strategists think. I suspected this for a while, but what was really interesting was all the no voters were saying things like, I thought they'd be a bit more Scottish. There's moments in us when we're almost embarrassed on our own behalf, when we're talking to we think are a target audience that don't like nationalism. But they're Scottish. We don't have to be uncomfortable with that. We can own Scottishness, we can own salt tyres, we've just got to stop our club brand scaring them away from the door. And if we do that, we will be able to engage them. Right, what I think I'll do is, I'll tell you one last thing. And then we'll just question and answer. Anything you want to know. There's hundreds more in this research work. I mean, loads and loads more. And some of it's really positive. We've caught up with women. This is among the two most positive things that came out of the polling work and the focus group. The three most positive things were, number one, no voters, not unionists, no voters look more like yes voters than they do unionists by miles. They are just us that never crossed the road. We sometimes talk about no voters like they're aliens. They're not, they're just us that didn't cross the road. That's a really, really positive thing. I know that sounds obscure to some people, but from where I'm standing, someone's affinity is incredibly powerful. If they're more like us, they are way more winnable. Secondly, looks like women are pretty well catching up male voting intentions. And I know everyone's going to say, but the opinion polls aren't moving. They're not. Opinion polls haven't moved their job. But they won't move unless we do something more clever than what we're doing, because there's no decision point. Why change your mind? Why change your mind in a decision you don't have to make? It's not coming, it's not there. But women seem to have been catching up men. If you look at how it goes, if you just look and say, how did they vote last time and how did they vote now? The gap is almost closed. This is especially in the younger groups. This is really good. Another really positive for us, and this has surprised me, because I actually said I thought we were going to have to be careful and ready to fight for an older vote. It was going to be very difficult, because it's the hardest group to reach by a stretch is the small C Conservative older voter. The reason for this is, well, okay, I'll tell you that. As I said I was going to tell you two more things, but this is quite tedious. One of the other things that we tested was a sequence of personality types to try and see what personality type votes in what way. Now, there's a theory behind this, but it hadn't been tested before. So one of the key things that we measured was a scale of what I'm going to call agency, risk-taking. And if I say that it's this, the guy that does the work for me hates it when I do this, but if we imagine the scale that goes from superhero to bedwetter, brave, ready, can cope with the future, or scared, nervous, cautious about the future. If you do that scale, it tracks incredibly closely with support for independence. People who support independence are by far the most confident in themselves and their community. There's three things that are most likely to indicate someone's propensity. One is attitude to risk. None of us like risk. Nobody likes risk. But no voters are, so unionists are much more risk averse on average than everybody else. Two is agency, my ability to look after myself when the future comes. So see, there's a sequence of questions, three, which are basically things like whatever the future, I'll be able to cope with it, or I feel confident that I'll be able to provide for my family no matter what, things like this. Again, it's quite strong. And the other one is belief in community. So it's really strong, this one. People who vote yes are way more likely, substantially more likely, to answer that they believe the people who surround them, and it doesn't have to be too specific, community, country, friends, whatever, between us we can fix this. versus those who say, oh, they're all useless and rubbish and I better just go and lock the door and that blanket over my head. So these three, they're not that surprising. This is because it's really, this work comes from, the theory work from this comes from the US, where it was used to analyse NRA people, gun control people. And it's really interesting because the gun advocates score, they're the tough ones, they're the outdoorers, the bear hunters, and are they shite? You don't have a gun because you're brave. It's really interesting. NRA people are way up the bedbetter scale. They're always convinced someone's coming from the blacks, the federal government, the bears, someone's coming from here, I better have lots and lots of guns. That's a sign of fear. This maps quite well against us, and there's a lesson from this, which is, see if somebody is 80% collectivist and 20% individualist, you definitely move them to independence by talking to their 80% collectivist part. But see if somebody is 20% collectivist and 80% individualist, you still move them to independence by talking to the 20% that's collectivist. If you talk about individual and you talk to them in terms which says you are on your own, you are going into an uncertain future as an individual and you've got to manage and survive it yourself, if you give them that sense, they are less likely to listen to the case. If you are emphasising things like, between us we can be really confident that we can do this because Scotland's filled with great people, you're more likely to move them. So this idea that the fact that someone is a bit more individualistic, let's talk to their individualism, is kind of like saying, get an NRA person, American gun user, and talk to them over and over about why they're so scared. It makes them go that way, not that way. So we've got to recognise that it's about being confident, about believing that we can fix it between us, about believing the future can be better, and a kind of general sense that we're people that can get it done. All of us, you, us, all of us, we can better cope with this risk. And this is really important. We have to make people feel confident. Confident people vote yes, people who lack confidence vote no. It's as simple as that. It's a confidence building job. Right, so that wasn't the last thing I was going to say, this is the last thing I was going to say, which is, remember I said I'm in a period whereby I don't know where the middle stage is. So I'm going to I've been really positive, so let me just do one negative thing. I am the eternal optimist. Even I can no longer walk through any scenario that delivers a referendum before 2021. It's not happening now. It doesn't matter what we do. There's no pre-2021 referendum. Cannot. Outside of the completely unexpected, can aliens landed or something like this, outside of that, I just cannot see any way to do it anymore. We've left it too late, we haven't prepared, we're not ready, we haven't done the build-up work, we're behind in the polls, and people keep saying, because you're going to ask me this afterwards, so let me just deal with a couple of them. People are going to say, oh, but the mandate. Sure. Holyrood's got a mandate to ask Westminster. Are you all aware that Westminster's got a mandate to say fuck off? Yeah. Westminster has an overwhelming unionist majority. Their mandate to say no is as strong as our mandate, stronger than our mandate to say yes. Mandate be damned. Whether you like it or not, the law's clear, Constitution is reserved to Westminster. There will be no Section 30 order, which means the only option would be to consider the Catalan solution of an advisory referendum, which is dangerous in a whole bunch of ways. There's so many problems with that one, not least a boycott by the other side, which I mean it just won't be recognised. But the biggest problem is now, by the time we got a bill passed and asked for it, and they said no, and we went ahead and got another bill prepared for an advisory referendum, they'd have us in court to stop it. I mean, I know from somebody on the other side that they have taken legal advice and they really are confident that if we do an advisory referendum and they take it to the Supreme Court, it will deem it illegal and prevent us to do it. So that's where we are at the moment. And there's ways around this, but not in 2 years. So I'm sorry, I know people want to believe it's coming, it's not. So it is, but not pre-2021. And then we've got the problem that the best one in the world, the SNP government, isn't setting hair on fire in terms of voter enthusiasm, and the 2021 election is probably going to be, I think, again, barring any more unforeseens, I think 2021 is all going to be a turnout. Who's the most, I don't think there's going to be an awful lot of change voters. I think it's all about who's most motivated to turn out. And I'm worried that while we, as indie activists, and I'm just be clear about this, I'm hyper pissed off with a dozen things this government's doing. I think it's been bad. But I'm 100% invested in it getting an R term, because otherwise we don't get a referendum. But bear in mind, I'm not normal. There's an awful lot of people out there who are just saying, I tell you really that this government testing my kids, won't take the bloody train, won't do anything about the train companies and the lateness, and blah blah blah, pick what you want, pick whatever issue it is. We only need to lose 5% of that vote to lack of enthusiasm, but a whole bunch of bouncy unionists to vote for, well, in any take it off the table. That's all that they need. We lose a pro-Indie majority, and it's 2025. Worse still, as we just lose a pro-Indie majority, we've still got a Scottish government that limps on as a minority through to 2025, and then it could be bad. We could lose 2025. There's a sequence of things that are quite worrying. We need to take this seriously. We need to take it seriously now. So there are some negatives, there are some problems, but there is another lesson. The two things that we need to learn from, I think now, most of all, are the other lessons from Catalonia as well as the Bernie Sanders campaign. So the Bernie Sanders campaign I could talk about for ages. It tells us how we get round a media that will not talk to us in an era when people are not going to big political meetings, particularly our target audience. And that tells us how we do that bit of it. But the other bit of it is the thing we need to learn. It is important that people understand that what happened in Catalonia was not driven by the political parties. Not before, not during, not after. I've been over in Catalonia quite a few times over the course of last year. I'm going to meet up with some of I've got a Brussels talk with a number of Catalan people as well later in the year. And if you talk to them in private, what they will tell you is the political parties were all really nervous. They kind of wanted not to do it. It was the civic cultural organisations who've driven campaigning for the last 10 years, the ANC and Omnium. They have driven the campaigning for the last 10 years. They were the ones who put together the proposals and the plans and all the pressure for a referendum. They keep pushing on it. They did most of the campaigning work. We need a civic, non-party political organisation which every single day of the week, no matter what the political cycle, is continuing to campaign and make the case for Scottish independence on behalf of us all. Not 1,000 different initiatives or bashing each other's heads against each other, which is good as well, but we still need something in the middle that's always there every day. And this is where I say I can see this first step. So I can't see the middle distance. I'm struggling to see the middle distance because of this timing problem, because we've left it so bloody late that we've neither done one thing or the other. We never took it off the table, nor acted. We never put it to sleep or woke it up. We just drifted, and that's why I'm pessimistic about the immediate period. But I can tell you what we need to do now. In, what is this? I think it's about 6 weeks' time or sometime around about that. There is going to be the launch of a national all-movement campaign organisation. It should be able to appoint certainly 3, 4, 5 staff, and that's on the money we've got at the moment. Once people see it, I really hope everybody owns it and understands it. It has the capacity to do everything that we need, all the things that I've been talking about here. It's capable of doing that, and it's there every day. It can talk to people with a voice that they listen to. That's why we've spent this money doing public attitude research work on it. How should we talk to you? How should we approach you? What will make you listen? People will listen to this. People will pay attention. They will engage. We need to do this now. And the most painful thing for me, and I'm not kidding you, the most painful thing for me over the last 3 years, apart from that fucking virus, was this inability of the movement to just stop knitting and get round one thing. There's too much oh, I like my initiative more than your initiative, whatever. And I'm going to say, yep, this was what I thought we should do, but I still think it was the right thing to do. Scottish Independence Convention, any national campaign organisation, any national pro-independence campaign organisation is welcome to join. Everybody, not exclusive. We'd love to let every local group, but you know, that'd be 150 of them plus another 30 to the table. We'd never get anything done. So what we then said was, because we started to get some criticism about the local groups, and we tried to get a couple of representatives, but there wasn't really a representative for all the local groups. So what we've done now is we've said that organise yourselves into forums, regional forums, and the regional forums can come and join. So Highland's already in. There's about 3 of them are in, I can't remember who it was. Have organised themselves at regional forums, but joined the SIC. So we all own this. Now, I have believed from the beginning, from day one, from the 19th of September, I wrote about it in the day, the next stage was for us all to get together, put aside our individual self-interests, put aside our whatever, and get together and recognise that only together, only working together consistently towards the same outcome, being clever, doing the things that people that win do, only that's going to move us forward. And there's still a bit of snarking and sniping on the SIC, it's just the elites. Aye, that's right, I'm not the elite. But I keep hearing this with folk, I know salary is 3 times, 4 times my salary, I'm still the elite. It's everybody. We need to get together, and I am really serious about this. If it won't happen, if we had this organisation launch and it was met with apathy, I don't know what steps we've got left. We cannot convert no voters via the SNP or the Scottish Greens or RIC if it existed. We cannot consistently and comprehensively reach everyone we need to across the whole country, self-organising as little groups and units on our own, important as that is for other reasons. We have to become a united movement who puts aside the pettiness and the disagreements and focuses on what we can agree on and what we can come together on. We need a prospectus that unites us, we need an organisation that unites us, we need a campaign that unites us, and we need to move forward like that. If we don't, I am starting to think that, hell, we don't want it enough. Because if we can't do that, in the circumstances that we're in just now, if we can't do that, and we look at the voters, and they say, you know, what's the case? He's got one, I've got one, they've got one. They'll look us in the eye and say, you're not serious. Are we serious? Do we want this? Has anyone got a bloody better idea how to win this campaign? I've thought about nothing but this for 3 years. I am really confident we are not a long way from independence. Conditional on us getting our finger out, recognising that what we've been doing is not working well enough, doing something better, doing it consistently, doing it with commitment, following it through, backing it up with a strategy and with a policy strategy and with a political strategy, and really pushing for it. Because we don't do this now, we have this risk, the window could close, and we'll be on the outside looking back in and saying, what happened, why didn't it happen? We're close and yet not close enough. If we do this, I am really confident we can move quite quickly towards success. We've got to do it. Got to give ourselves a shake. We are in a moment of lethargy. We are all feeling a bit punch-drunk and a bit exhausted and a bit wabbit, and we don't know what we're doing or where we're looking. Enough now. Back up on your feet. Give yourself a shake. There are things we need to do now. If we do them, we win. If we don't do them, we don't win. It's that simple. And this is the really positive thing. At the moment, everything that we need to do is on our shoulders. Nobody's stopping us apart from us. Are we going to do it, or are we going to spend the rest of the next 2 years on Twitter calling unionists names? I really like it if we pack that in and focus our head on what will win is this. Questions? I'm here all night, folks. No, seriously, questions? Or anything.
Now, I've been on a couple of marches, and you know, when you talk about that buzz and folk go, yeah, and that fires some people up. What I found is the marches to be very, very congenial, happy, dogs, family, all going in together. Do you think that that's a turn off for a lot of the no's that we are kind of...
Right, no. One of the things that really annoys me is, again, there's a little bit of a strand of the indie movement, which is a little bit from the kind of upper middle class professional politics front, who are embarrassed by the marches. They're wrong. They're wrong. When, seriously, apart from something which feels odd and strange, so it's not, I'm not being sectarian, but there's something strange about the culture of an orange walk. Just the way they walk, and they look like, kind of looks military, it's kind of a turn off. But have you ever gone through somebody else's gala day and thought, bastards? Oh, they're having fun, it's lively, there are flags, they're happy, there's a broad age range, there's kids. It's not turning people off at all. Just be aware of the fact they're not seeing it. It's the chances of you happening to be in the corner of the right street at the right time to see the march going by and work out what it is and stop for long enough to see it and that mean anything to you in either bloody them again or come on then, and then back to the shop. They're not seeing it. Now, there is a incredibly important function of things like marches. If we hadn't, let's be honest, if the grassroots of this movement hadn't kept it going, the crisis would be worse than I think it is. We have kept a soul and some kind of structure to this movement in a period when, I'm just going to be open about this, there was no leadership. If we hadn't done it, it would have dissolved like snow off a dike. And I say it again, I drove 4 hours up here tonight to talk to you. And I mean, don't take me this wrong, but I don't think you lot can get home and just press buttons and make all the things I'm talking about happen. You know, I'm here because solidarity and staying together and keeping involved and talking to each other, it's the heart of every campaign that ever existed. Where I think we made a mistake is believing that's enough. Every campaign needs a social club. This is our social club. Every campaign needs something more than a social club. Social club is when we get back together and at the end of the day's canvassing, have a pint and exchange of views. It's not how you change the public. We're too social club. We're not out enough. We're out a lot. I know people take it hard when I say that. We're not in the right places, doing the right stuff. March. I like a march. I don't agree with those folk who don't like a flag. Flag's neutral in and of itself. They're either happy or they're not. It's not to do with what you do with them. It's not. Our marches have been happy marches. No, I missed the last one. I was in Madrid doing a Catalan talk. I'd already been booked, so I missed the Edinburgh march. But my mum says she was on it. 65 and campaigning for Scottish independence since the 60s. And she said it was remarkable to note the age range, the demographic ranges, the number of kids, the dogs, and the overall, she says you couldn't not have been carried away with the positivity. Brilliant. Brilliant. That's a gift to you. Sends us here fired up. But it wasn't that one, it was the Glasgow one. Feel free to go there and robin@common.scott's my email address. I correspond with people. Social media is a shit when you know what's going on in the place. Have conversations. So one of the people that corresponds with me from time to time just dropped me an email after the Glasgow march. Says, this is the Monday, I'm feeling really low today. I said, how come? It's a great march. He says, I know, it really was a great march and I went home with such a high. And I woke up on Sunday morning and I thought, but what does it mean? And that was their response to me. This wasn't, how can I put it? This person, she did not profile like me. She's not a professional politician or a strategist or anybody. She's just an enthusiastic foot soldier. And her response was, yeah, it was great when I was there, but it's like a sugar rush. There's no nourishment in it the day afterwards if it doesn't lead to something. So, if I hear any more, it's where they go, if I hear any more of the kind of smart arsey lot in the movement, going on about how these marches are bad, I swear to God, I'll clip them in the ear and tell them they get away to the beds, your supper. He's the list. It doesn't do any harm, it's complete and utter snobbery. Good on you all under one banner, you're a great thing. It's never, we could date for 100 years and we'll never convert anybody. But I hate folk that talk it down. It's no.
Certainly, I found it good for morale.
Do you know when morale's not important? Never! Never! We're doing a policy paper on energy, and the guy that's writing it is a Welshman. So I was just joking about it. He engaged at the weekend, and he just says, "Oh no, after the really good news, blah blah blah." Says, "I was beating English, that was magic." And so we're just joking back and forth by email about all this. And he says, "What is it with Scotland? Because you've got the players." He says, "I know, but it's the mindset." I mean, I played rugby, and I watched them. There's no question Scotland's got rugby players to be competitive now. Why are we not? And Warren Gatman, the Welsh manager, phrased it very well. The Welsh have forgotten how to lose. They've forgotten the habit of losing. When they are under the cosh, 10 minutes to go, their mind goes, we're going to turn this over. Because their morale's high. I swear, when I look at the Scotland team, talented, exciting, great players, see these 10-minute spells when they're under the cosh, I swear to God, I can look in their eyes and I think, fuck, we're going to lose this for a game. It's morale. Morale's enormously important. And remember I was saying, it's all about confidence. Confidence is infectious. If we're enthusiastic and confident, not in a fucking used car salesman kind of way, just, you know, if you've got that sense of belief in mission, it rubs off on other people. So, you can't, just straightforwardly, there's never been a revolution without dancing. All revolutions without dancing. If you don't have it, if you don't feel it, it's not something more than a change of the administrative system at the top. It doesn't mean anything. So, don't stop marching, don't be down the people who do, just recognise its function and don't transpose it. I saw one comment that says, do we really, it's just from someone who know it, do we really need a national campaign organisation now that we've got all these rallies and marches? I'm like, what? We've got milk, do we really need sticky plasters? They're totally different things for totally different functions and totally different purposes. So, march, enjoy it, feel good about it. To be completely honest with you, right now as an indie supporter, you've got to take your moments of happiness where you can get them.
Can I just say one thing with marching? The one plus side of it is that the opposition has always seen the Rangers scarfing, even Jack doing the Nazi salute.
Well, they're idiots,
That's always a plus bit.
They're idiots about it. They're idiots about it. I'll tell you the other thing, which they hate. I mean, they do hate. You know this. There is now no question that symbolically we own this altar. No question. To the extent that in my other life as the director of Common Weal, I'm involved in a coalition, a campaign coalition, and there was somebody in the coalition where we're dealing with a graphic issue, and one of the other people, it was very nice, senior person in the voluntary sector, and they said, oh, listen, I don't think we can put a saltire on, it's so closely associated with the independence movement now. I was like, whoa, wow, because I'm not hostile, I'm just saying that. He says, wow, that's your perception of it now. They've lost it, they've lost the saltire, we've got it, they hate it, they want it back. Aye, sure they do, you're not having it. So there's plenty about the marches that are good. The problem is, it comes back to that point. If it was the other way around, if they were having big, joyful, happy marches, and 3 of our fascists were out Sieg Heilen, I think you'd see it in the telly. The problem about big stunts, and I don't say stunt in a negative way, right? So I refer to anything that's a deliberate setup as a stunt. It's just the terminology that I would use in the trade. A big stunt doesn't exist if the national media doesn't cover it. This is the problem. We've been trying to do big stunts, but you've got to look at the game you're playing. And the game that we are playing, we cannot land awareness and perception of big stunts with enough of the public because we don't have the media traction. So we can all go and complain, write letters to the BBC, or we've got to work with what we've got. And I say it again, we don't have the media, but we've got the numbers. We have got thousands of people that we can activate as advocates for yes. That's what we need to do.
Well, about the media, how do you think tomorrow's stunt by the Nationals going to work?
What, remind me, I've been
They're asking everybody who buys a National to buy another copy, so you get mine too, but you're giving one to a known no voter.
It's got the Macron report.
It's got the Common report.
Right. I get a National and think they do a good job with the resources that they've got. You wouldn't mistake it for being a newspaper which is written with content which is orientated to no voters. I mean, I know they've got no resources, but the best one in the world, there's quite, if you go on the website, there's quite a lot of these, click this video and watch somebody or other at Westminster, put it to the English, and you click it, it's just another bloody Westminster speech. Like, nobody, they're not, that's for us. My problem with it is that I know personal friends in my civilian life, active yes supporters, yes voters, activists last time round, who kind of feel the Nationals a bit too much independence even for them every day. You know, I met a guy in the shop and we were just chatting about how it was gone. He always he's a painter and decorator locally, he always chins me about indie stuff and I never see it. It takes me fucking ages to go to the co-op if he's there. And we were chatting about this one day and I said, you know, get the National. I was really, this was, you know, a wee while ago, and I was really, you know, get the National. He says, look, I'm an indie supporter, but, you know, I like international politics, I'm quite into football, and there's, you know, and news and stuff. I didn't want it every day. And I understand completely the national circulation, everyone's circulation is such that shoring up your core readership is crucial. And there's no question the National has been trying to shore up its core readership of strong independent supporters. I am not sure that the tone of the National on an average day is the most engaging read for a no voter if they're not already partially engaged. So giving it cold to a no voter on an average day, I am not sure they come out a yes voter.
Yeah, but tomorrow they're publishing that report, that
Common report.
Aye.
Because of the oil.
Aye, I'm going to tell you another thing. This isn't good as somebody who runs a think tank, which is emphasised on big thinking. For your report, there's another report. Oil is not playing for us. Oil is not. No voters have heard it too much. And if you add it all up, what it really came to was the oil prices collapsed. And it was way off, miles off, where the oil revenues were. And we've not tested this is just my instincts. I wouldn't, if the subject of oil come up with a no voter for me, I would say it's a lovely bonus. Only way I would approach it. And I am almost certain that it's one of those trigger words. If we lead with the word oil, it's like, okay, here they go again.
You've got a problem in this area, haven't you? If you start discounting oil,
There's
our economy up this neck of the woods is so closely related to
there's a different, remember when I was, see this is the difficulty of trying to get a big message. Remember when I was saying you need core messages, core national messages, they've got to work everywhere. This does not mean that you do not target other messages at local places. So for example, to give you a different example, because this is about the fourth, fifth time we've been up to Aberdeen recently, and I always get asked this question, how do we fix the oil problem up here? And I always say the same thing, give me some time to research. I don't know I don't know the industry sector, the employment demographics, I don't know enough to really make a professional and informed opinion about how to do that. I'm going to time to look at it. I'm not against it. If I could find some time, I would. So let me give you another example where I spent some time in Dumfries and Galloway. Now there, I'm much clearer. They've got a massive local problem, which is, God,
Dave Mundell?
no, no, he's doing there. You have no idea. Right, I'm like, this is, right, okay, I'm going to tell. We're looking at stats, and we're just going to analyse them a bit more, but it now looks like it's the UK's poorest region, overtaking South Wales. I spent my summer holidays doing there, amazing place, loved Dumfries and Galloway. I bumped by chance into the local Yes campaigners who I know, route one day, and I was just quizzing them, and over again, everywhere I went, the same thing came back. They feel more forgotten by Edinburgh than Westminster. Everyone else in Scotland feels much more forgotten by Westminster than Holyrood. They just feel lost. Now, if we don't say, Galloway, we love you, we'll lose Galloway. We need to find messaging that works there. And I agree that. What I'm saying is that if one of our core campaign arguments is oil, it's like, do you know that way you bump into someone in a pub and you hear them winding up with a joke you've heard them tell 3 times before and you start grimacing? This is what I mean by triggering people. They have heard us going on about oil and off law. It was the whole basis for case in the 70s and the 80s for older people. It was a strong part of our case in the last referendum, and it didn't work, didn't go well. Now what I therefore do, I'll just be honest, I duck oil. I duck it for a deliberate reason. I know it can't appear, but I duck it in both ways, which is I was equally under pressure from people saying we need to use every economic resource we can, and for example the Greens saying leave it all on the ground. And I'm saying, right, we can't be loudly saying leave it all on the ground for the purposes of Aberdeen. That can't be done. But equally, elsewhere, I don't think we want to make oil a top issue in the bulk of our conversations. Now, if that sounds like I've just said I don't have an answer to the question, I don't have an answer to the question, the Aberdeen question. You ask me every time I come up. Somebody asks me every time I come up, and I keep saying this. What we need is a professional strategist to sit down and do some work. What is it that? So, for example, I just don't know how many oil industry people are winnable targets. How many secondary jobs are scared, even if they're not directly in the oil, about the oil stuff? What is it that scares them up? What is it that scares them about it? Are they news agents who are effectively supply chains to the industry? What kind of reassurance do they want? Will they be persuaded that an extra 10 years is enough, or is oil running out? I don't know the answers to the questions. I don't like making up strategies wildly without knowing what's going on. I would absolutely suggest that we as a whole need to be much better at producing professional, grounded, when I say professional, I just mean good, grounded regional strategies which live under the national strategy, fit with it, but are targeted and specialists. I just don't, one of the reasons why I've been up in Aberdeen a bit more is, I'll just put my hand up, I don't know the North East that well. I know Inverness and the Highlands much better, I know Ayrshire better, I know the Lothians, I'm a Lanarkshire laddie myself, I know the Glasgow situation, I don't know Perthshire all that well, and I don't know Aberdeenshire all that well. That's why I've been up a bit more, I want to learn more. I don't know the answer to the question, and I'd be bluffing if I did. You're right, it's a problem. I don't know what the answer is. All I can tell you is my instincts are quite strong from what I've seen at a national level, outside places where oil jobs are real and current. I don't think oil plays well. I'm not saying we're negative about oil. I'm saying I don't think it's a win for most people. And then, this is what I mean about a professional campaign organisation. We call message segmenting. We've got a national framework which is designed to accommodate sequences of regional frameworks which work with, but in a different way from the national messaging. And you need both, but they need to be done well. And one of my real worries is I keep hearing people, for example, I've heard a comment a number of times, but in Aberdeen we need to be more right-wing. because Aberdeen's more right wing and because of the oil jobs and so on. And I keep coming back to this point again, but be careful, because remember what I've seen about collectivist individualist. If we start going right wingness is probably likely to make people say, oh God, right wing is more risk averse, or at least it presents it. They're called conservatives for a reason. And going too far in that direction is likely to strengthen people's fear and caution elements. We still need to enthuse no matter who it is. So, hands up, I don't know enough data about Aberdeenshire to tell you how it works. It'll take a bit of work to get there. All I'm saying encouragingly is, I believe that soon there'll be the right structure in place that we can start to develop that. And I very much hope that once that top tier level of campaigning is in place, a strategy is in place, I will certainly be arguing strongly internally that we need to decentralise our campaigning. Our campaigning has been too centralised, the messaging has been too centralised. We need to be much more place sensitive. It's another thing the No Campaign haven't been quite so able to do outside of Orange Scotland, the corn Scotland sewed up. But apart from that, they've not been that good at regionalisation. I go into this just like all the time just now. Regionalisation and localisation is why failure of regionalisation and localisation is why we got Brexit. It's the thing that tipped it over was the sense that Westminster was like a kingdom enclosed, and that you were being governed by them from distance. And Brexit was in large part 2 fingers up from people in parts of the country who were forgotten by a ruling elite who genuinely thought it didn't matter. We've got to do the opposite. We've got to get way out of that mistake and recognise the importance of regionalisation and localisation. If we don't, we're going to have to face those problems. So I'll tell you what I'm going to try and do sometime then, is cut out some time and see if I can find some information that would give me a bit more information, so that the next time I come up when you ask me what we do in Aberdeen, I've got something better. I'm not...
Well, no, I was just, I mean, if your strategy is to discount oil or not, focus on oil as an issue, in this region you'd be failing.
Lovely bonus.
Well,
Lots of jobs to come.
People are going to want to know, what's your strategy for it? How are we going to develop the industry? And more importantly, what comes next? Because historically this region was fish and farming.
Yeah, I know.
Then oil came, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much all there is, apart from a few enclaves up on the north coast. That's it.
And there's another problem we're going to raise here, which might surprise some of you, which is I am desperately trying to tell everybody the core case cannot write too much policy post-Indy. Right? So we can talk about directions, we can have different visions for where we want to go, and we can do things. The way that I think we can deal with this is saying things like, here are some things we could do to help Aberdeen, because oil's coming to an end. Globally, oil is coming to an end. We're all going to die if it doesn't. We just be aware of that. What I think, rather than saying this is exactly how we're going to do it, what I think the case is to say is, if we were independent, we'd actually care about this and we'd have the power. Whereas at the moment, we don't have the power and they don't care. It's round about that rather than saying, I mean, there's some simple things we can do. The Energy Department of the Scottish Government should be in Aberdeen. I mean, there's a lot of jobs coming from the civil service. I should just say straight away, the civil services energy will be devolved to Aberdeen, and we should start to look at an economic plan for the North East. It's not hard to do. I just hate bluffing strategy if I don't know enough and I don't know enough. That's all.
So I was just going to say on a couple of those points that you've made is that I don't know if you've seen them. We went on to talk with Leslie Riddick a while ago, and her films on Iceland, Norway, and their independence. Have you seen them at all?
Yeah.
Hugely, I mean, my goodness, hugely
Right.
interesting.
Can I describe this for anyone that's not seen it? So it's 2 photographs. Is it Peterhead? It's one of the northeast fishing ports. It's a photograph from the late 19th century, next to a photograph of a Norwegian port from the same time. A similar Norwegian port. Bustling, busy, lively, boats as far as you can see. It then shows you a picture of now, Norway, filled with boats, bustling, lively, full of work, it looks like a place alive, and wherever it was, the other one, none. It's like two folks smoking a fag and someone out in a dinghy.
Yeah.
And it just, it really, really shows you. Now, I come up sometime and talk about Common Weal stuff. I haven't mentioned Common Weal today. I don't, listen, we do a lot of work in this. One of the biggest fast wins in Scotland would be to relocalise our food supply, our food production. We gave up on food production. We think we've so specialised in high value specialist export market that we don't eat our own food anymore. And one of the biggest fast job generators would be to reboost food production and agriculture in Scotland. We've got a lot of land. 20% of Scotland is grouse moor. It's wasted, it does nothing. We've got these amazing land resources, and because Westminster doesn't care, we've reached a point where you will not find another island nation, I really mean this, you will not find another island nation whose maritime infrastructure is so weak. Scotland, here's a question, seriously, when was the last time that a customs cutter ship, intercept ship used for customs, when was the last time a customs cutter was in Scottish waters?
We caught the Turkish guys that were 7 tons of cocaine a while back.
Look, that was the police. The last time that there was a customs and excise was over 20 years ago. The UK disposed of its intercept vehicles when they made a big change, whereby they changed the Borders and Customs Service into a border control. So it used to be 90% smuggling, tax collection, goods, all that kind of stuff, 10% immigrant chasing. And the Tories turned it into 90% immigrant chasing, 10% contraband chasing. They just got rid of all that. We have no Coast Guard. There's no Coast Guard of any meaningful sense in Scotland. We are a landlocked island. It's nuts. It doesn't make sense. Now, this is where I say, if we divest what we're talking about tonight is a core case that unites everybody. Now, if you ask me about my vision for an independent Scotland, which is not going to unite absolutely everybody, we'd have bustling ports. One of the first things that I would do, is nationalise an export port. We don't have, well, actually, can anyone tell me the last international exporting port in Scotland?
Wasn't that?
No, it's not. It's not. No. There's only one. No, there's only one left as a proper export port, and it's Cairnryan, and that's just the island. And we're about to see. This is the funny thing is, I think we're about to lose that the way we're going, because the whole of Ireland's supply comes from Scotland. Doing the A77, it's closed more than it's open with fucking accidents. It's the worst road in the world. And I was talking to some people when I was down there, and they said exactly what they're saying was, do you understand that we've got at the moment, we've got all the export business going to Ireland, coming down here and going out through Cairnryan, but these lorries are regularly on single track roads, which take so long that they go over their hours, and they've got to sleep on a single track, in the car on a single track road, and they miss their deliveries. And he's convinced that some of these companies are starting to say, we may as well just shift the whole business to the north of England. This is what we've done. We haven't said we need an export port. We don't have a serious export port to Europe. It all goes through England. If we're an independent country, it would be crazy not to have a proper exporting port from Scotland. It'd be unheard of for a country of our size not to be able to export anything to Europe from our borders. So I could talk for quite a long time about maritime, how we bring it back again. I could talk for ages about food, how we stimulate food. We start to use land and consume more. And I just wanted to say, this is a thing that's shocked me. I keep talking about import substitution, and people look blankly at me. If you make something and export it, everybody knows it's good for balance of trade, good for earning income, great. You know that if you make it, consume it, and don't import something, It's exactly the same balance of trade effects, exactly the same income effects, but it's more sustainable in the sense that your market is here and they're likely to buy from you again. So I'm going to ask a question which infuriates me, which is how the hell is it, other than a small number of schools that bake their own bread, a Scottish school child will go this year and last year and next year without eating a single slice of bread in their school that was made in Scotland? We handed, this is my angry face, we handed the entire school bread contract to a mass industrial plant in Wales. So if we do that, then seriously, hell mend us. So let's be clear, I encourage you to support this. We've got a policy paper coming on it, the food bill's out just now, the SNP is dragging it, Scottish Government is dragging its heels on it. There's still time, go to Nourish Scotland or the Scottish Food Coalition, back it. There is a law in France, so it's in the European Union rules. In France, by law, public kitchens, so public kitchens are schools, hospitals, prisons, anywhere that food. Public kitchens must source 50% of everything that they serve locally, organically. You can call it protections if you want, but it works. We could, overnight, take, and this is probably £500 million to £1 billion. We could take that, stop exporting it to Poland, and start buying food from Scotland. It would overnight transform the food industry. There's lots that we can do. I'd like to have brought it up, but because I was off the virus, I ran out and I was meaning to pick them up. I haven't got it. Have you seen our atlas? Has anyone got the atlas? Damn, we're so bad at promotion. We just produced Scotland's Atlas of Opportunity. 30 quid is 8 quid postage because it's a big bastard thing. So what we just produced at Latland North is an atlas which contains, is it 40 maps of Scotland? Each one overlaid with all the information about where's our food, where's our soil, where's our wind speeds, where's our renewable energy, where are our cultural assets, where are our transport links, with a whole bunch of text and visuals and lovely pictures. And the whole point of this is to try and show you how underused Scotland's assets are. This is a piece of work we're going to do with Common Weal, but it's on independence. We live in a country where the whole economy is geared to asset value inflation, which is to say rapidly rising stocks and shares and property, as well as hyper-consumerisation and monopoly. This is what these are the core of the UK economy. It's all where the growth comes from. Why? Because the monopolies are in London, the retailers are owned in London, and all the assets whose value are inflating are in London. This is why London takes a higher proportion of its national wealth than any other European country by a factor of about, is it 3? Enormous, you should see graft.
Oh, it's massive.
It's unbelievable. Now, what we're trying to do with the Atlas of Productivity and a lot of other things is to say, right, now reimagine Scotland if we built our wealth not in City of London trickery, but by exploiting and using effectively and regeneratively our resources. And I'll tell you that friend first, got one, she's a unionist, well, no, she's not, I did it there, she's a no voter, could be one. But her mum and dad are both no voters, probably can't be one. She bought them a copy of the Atlas, they love it. They're no voters, but they look through and it's like, oh, here, look at this in Scotland or that in Scotland. I didn't know we had all this, and my God, look at all this. Is that all grouse moors, is that? We need to re-educate the people of Scotland on their own bloody country, because nobody else has done it. We have an amazing natural resources, an amazing base, we don't use it. Why? Westminster. Here's another wee one, I don't know how much longer I can go, we'll see. Here's another wee one. Let me get the numbers right. Damn it. I should have blank in the exact numbers. But I can do it by proportions. If you have a 1 megawatt energy generating station in Essex, you will be paid a number of £1,000s per gigawatt in subsidy. If you have a 1 megawatt wind farm in Sutherland, you will pay 4 times as much as they're subsidised in fees. Why? Because they've built an entire UK energy market which is all about getting large single-site generation energy into the densely populated southeast of England. Right? If we were Scotland, our energy network, our energy structure wouldn't look anything like this whatsoever. It's crazy, it's terrible for Scotland. We would have built a grid which was all based on dispersed power with with localised smart grids and large volume energy storage. So if you build thermal generation, i.e. you burn stuff, coal, oil, nuclear, if you build thermal generation, you can turn it up and down, you don't need storage. If you've got renewables, you can't, you need to store. We could increase the efficiency of our renewables that we've got already by 40% by simply storing the energy that we waste when it's generated at outside peak times. I could do this for hours. Scotland is a rich, rich country in terms of its potential, and we don't use it, and there's a reason we don't use it. But the reason I don't talk about these things is at the moment, when I'm doing this, I'm trying to be hyper focused on the unity element. And I accept that some of the things that Common Weal said, Common Weal would do, they're not radical, but they are all about transformation, land reform, changing the ownership structures, changing how we eat, changing how we shop, changing our housing and all these kind of things. And for those reasons, I tend to keep them separate. I try to keep those in my Common Weal world, and when I'm just doing indie stuff, I try to focus on things that I think we can all agree on or that we all need to hear. But I mean, literally, I can do 3 hours just on what the fuck it would look like if we got Scotland right. It excites me. In fact, I'll tell you this, we've got a big economic paper on this exact subject coming out, which will be the next month. And I gave it to Craig, head of policy, to read. And I mean, it's economics, but he read it over, and I said, what do you think? He says, I think it's quite good. He says, tell you what though, I get really excited. He says, what? I said, no really. I said, I've forgotten what we can do in Scotland. I've never forgotten what we can do in Scotland. We can do so much, but we need the power. And then once, well, in a symbiotic relationship, we need both power and the spine to take it. And right now, we definitely don't have the power, and I'm not convinced that we're demonstrating enough spine to take it.
So in the food aspect, could we start to do that now? We don't need to...
Yeah,
so
that's what's driving me up the wall.
So we could start.
Now, so this is just
That would be part of the show, and that we can do it.
There's another thing which one of the things I didn't talk about here was there's quite strong evidence of the need to have a positive progress, right? So, do you know, it makes your second step easy. It's your first step, right? And one of the things which is strange is people, when I said it's all about confidence, I didn't go into this because I did a lot of work in the first group of attitude research, which basically said, focusing, if you can't fix the potholes with what you've got now, why should I trust you to run independence? And the thing that I disagree most with, that's quite a long list, but early on, quite a lot of the Scottish government's, the Sturgeon administration's people kind of came out, and what they were saying was it's all about steady as she goes, competent managing, and showing that we can do it without taking any risks. And the psychology of this was so skew-whiff for me. Whatever it was, we are actually saying to the public, we want you to take a risk. We want you to take a risk. And an independent Scotland, which like it or not, is not what we have, therefore it's an unknown. We want you to take a risk. And the way that we're going to show you that you can take a risk is by us taking no risks. You've got to have, I keep saying spine, you used to be able to say a pair of balls, but you can't now, me too and all that. You've got to have some bloody fire about you if you want folk to follow you. You can't, if you want people to say, yeah, you know what, I want what they've got, what they're having, you've got to show some bloody fire, some some vision. And if I was to tell, I've gone at this for a number of years now, there are 3-4 areas that we could do things that would impact on people quite quickly now using the powers that we've got, and that would give them a sense of momentum. One is housing. We could do a lot in housing in Scotland if we get out the pockets of the big developers. We are so in the pockets of the big developers that, Jesus Christ, we've got a right to buy scheme. The right to buy scheme was invented by George Osborne to inflate the London property market in the aftermath of the financial crisis. It doesn't help anybody who needs to buy a house buy a house. You still need £120,000 in your pocket and they'll give you that the next 30. We've got one in Scotland because the housing developers is good for them. Right, so there's a lot we could do with housing. In fact, again, this is a policy paper that's coming out. Scotland could build passive house quality, i.e. it's so brilliant that you don't need to heat it. First-rate housing with a 2-bedroom house being rentable for £450 a month at passive house standard with no public subsidy whatsoever. If we did it right, use the Scottish National Investment Bank, create a national housing agency, do it right, it would impact quickly. Housing, local democracy. We are the most centralised country in the whole world. If we want people to be confident making decisions, we should so set our confidence in giving them the power to make decisions about their own communities. It would be transformational if a town like Ellon had its own council and people were engaged in what should we do with this town. We can change our town, we can change our country. If you don't think we're capable of having the powers to change our town, what makes you think we as a nation are capable of changing our country? Local democracy. Housing, local democracy. Food impacts on people and it's part of everyone's life. It's a strength in Scotland. We don't eat Scottish food. We could do stuff in food. And the other one that's really opened up, I think now, and I wrote about this the other week, is energy. It's going to be a national energy company. It will impact a little slower, but if we can get the message that we are planning for the next era of energy, because God knows the UK is not, if we can give the message that we're really preparing people for the next era of energy, I think that would be another one. So it's too late now. That's what really frustrates me. I was jumping up and down saying, folks, this is not 5 years of take it steady. This is 5 years of inspire. Not wild, risky things. Swear to God, I'm saying, let's attempt something like Germany's housing market. Let's attempt something like France's system of local democracy. Let's attempt something like Denmark's energy system. These are not wild, radical things. These are not, and incidentally, let's attempt most of Europe's food system. Most of Europe eats its own food. These are the things which I think we should have done. They're all mainstream. Thanks. They're all mainstream. No. I can't believe I'm still talking.
But thank you so much.
More
I
than welcome.
recommend have a look at those bills and things. What I want to say is that part of it is it's inspirational, but it's also factual.
Yeah.
And it's actually looking at what other people have done and how to go about that. And one of when you're speaking about the soundbite thing, one of the things that keeps coming back is it's about looking forward instead of always looking back to say, well, what happened there, and sort of seizing upon that kind of movement.
Plus show, don't tell.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's as true now as it always was.
Oh, are you as well? Okay. And it is show, don't tell, and also the generosity with which everyone shared their knowledge and their experiences.
I thought you were talking.
That was-
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the stills in the book. I've not seen the film yet.
Oh.
I must catch up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
in Blossom. It's in Leslie's book. The same pictures,
yeah,
but they're stills.
yeah. But you know, but the whole thing, and yeah. Good night. Thank
And your babysitter's right, what are you doing? Is that enough? Right, two more, and I'll do them fast. And no, you saying aye, fuck off. Is that what you were telling me?
No, the question was in money mainly about when I was during campaign during Brexit and also the referendum, you found that a lot of the areas in Aberdeen where you got a lot of yes voters, they voted for Brexit. My question is, how do we tackle the European and in terms of that vote? Because that's like 200,000 people.
Aye.
You know,
I mean,
will they be able to vote? We don't know.
I'm going to do a very, very fast version of this.
Okay.
The very fast version of it is we don't quite know what the voting rights of the EU citizens are going to be, but we need to address the EU question. The other day there, just as with my political strategy here, this is me, right? I do this at 11 all the time. Once I was close to this, I went, dear God, 2 in 5 people in Scotland voted to leave the European Union. We've kept saying to ourselves, overwhelming Remain vote in every area, that we've just completely forgot that 40% of the population, and they split. The Leave voter is likely to be among the strongest no voters and the strongest yes voters, with a group in the middle that's winnable, such as North East fishing. I'll give the same formulation I'll give everybody. And again, this is in the book, the How's That New Country book, which is, here's how it works. You can't join the European Union until you have your own currency and central bank for 3 years. Note that, anyone that's still thinking of the Growth Commission. Okay? So, before we apply, there's 3 years. In that period, we cannot be in the European Union, and there is no shadow membership of the European Union available. However, before you join the European Union, you have to join the European Economic Area, the EEA. So, EFTA is a small trade group which has its own deals with the rest of the world. We should join EFTA, no brainer, but it doesn't deal with the European single market. It's the EEA, the European single market. You have to join that before you apply to join the European Union anyway. Now, it's never happened. Nobody's joined the EEA other than as an accession country to the full EU. Nobody's joined since 1996 when Norway joined the EEA. Nevertheless, if you look at the rules seem to say that within 6 months, as long as you meet the basic standards, you can get shadow membership of the EEA, which puts us into the European single market. Now, if it was me, I would say, don't go further than that during the referendum. We will immediately enter the seek to join the EEA, and then in time we can make a decision, because it would be time anyway, in time we can make a decision about full European entry. It gives freedom of movement for European citizens, and us for them. It gives us all the key stuff, but it doesn't involve common agricultural policy or the common fisheries policy. They're the 2 big things that are inside the EU but outside the EEA. It means we can go in the North East fishing and talk again, while still being able to talk to young Europhiles in Edinburgh. That's my formulation for this one. I can't come up with anything simpler or better. I'm not saying we won't join the EU. We can't do it quickly anyway, probably, but we can join the EEA. The EEA, I've got my problems with even that, but I'm not going to get into state aid. The EEA gives us everything apart from regulatory alignment on fishing and agriculture, and those are the areas we want to be outside. That's what I would do. See, we will definitely join the EEA. It would be for a future government to make a decision about whether it joins the EU once we're eligible. I think that's the best solution.
How do we replace the yes brand? And
Can't
should we
you
just
tell you?
take-
I'm gonna
should we
tell
just
you.
take that, all the yes merchandise and done?
Right, there's 2, I told you we can keep yes for us.
No.
It's not good to talk to other people. Can't tell you the branding because we're launching it and I'm not telling you the name and all that kind of stuff. And another thing I would say is, bear in mind there's 2 phases here. This is another thing that we are getting a bit skewed with. You do different things outside, I remember I said, you do different things outside a campaign than inside a campaign. We will inevitably need to come up with some kind of a branding name when the campaign kicks off, which has some sort of touching relevance to the question being asked. So I don't want to be called the Leave campaign or the Remain campaign or whatever. But if the question was, do you want Scotland to remain part of the UK or do you want Scotland to become an independent country? There's no point in calling ourselves yes. There's no point in calling ourselves. I mean, we need something which points people to the answer we want to give in the referendum. What I'm kind of suggesting is I think that we probably need, we definitely need, the word brand doesn't sound attractive, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
We need a brand, an identity to use now, which opens the door, and then we need a brand or an identity during the campaign, which is single-mindedly focused on shoving people towards a specific answer. What I don't think is we need to come up with some genius new, all-encompassing, this is it forever and forever now, indie brand. We've got to remember that this is the other funny thing here. Branding is for us. It makes us feel a joint identity. The branding isn't what's shifting no voters one way or the other, it's the messaging.
Right.
So one of the things I keep saying, as we've been going through this work, people keep saying, but will that name transform what people think? I say, the Scotland name transform what people think. It's not the name, it's what you do with the name. So remember that you don't really want people to see you from 100 yards away with your new giant logo, so that if they're no voters, they're across the road. Better creep up on them. Do it disguise. So I personally don't think at this phase the answer is a giant big boof logo which brands us. I think it's something attractive and easy to engage with, that has a meaning for the movement, has a meaning for the message that we're saying, but it's attractive and easy to engage with, gets us in the door, and then it's all about the content of the campaigns and the conversations. So part of the problem is we don't need to replace yes with another yes. We need to stop leading out with a big brand thing, thinking that changes people's minds. It doesn't. We need something that opens doors, and then we need to change our minds, rather than imagining that we batter down the doors with a giant big identity symbol.
Should she take the badges off and stack it up the car, and will you keep that on?
That's only to, I mean, as I said, I'm wearing this t-shirt tonight, that's because I'm here with you bunch of folks who I know you all agree with me, identify with it and know what it means. Yeah. So as attracting like-minded people to gain in other activists, stick with what we've got in the meantime, but you've got to be ready to change it. It's a bit like moving from Martin to stickers.
I don't want to be too dogmatic about this. One of the things that we get hung up is when you're trying to make a point like this, everyone's like, oh, there's a right way to do it. Are you trying to open a conversation with the back of your car? My suggestion is you're not. This is about identifying to other people who might feel similarly. I don't think there's any problem with the yes in the back of your car. The yes to folks, they brought me down hundreds of bloody t-shirts. I couldn't wear them if I wanted to. So if you find me gardening, it's always in a yes to t-shirt. My house is filled with yes stuff. Everywhere I went during the referendum was a yes mug that would give me a wee thank you. I drink my whiskey with a wee, is it Rutherglen yes? I can't remember where the election yes groups. They're going to be whiskey snifter and whatever. No, you don't need to start a bonfire in your back garden and burn all your yes kit. However, if you're wanting to open a conversation with somebody, don't wear yes, I would argue. So if you just want to show your allegiance and loyalty, and incidentally give the sense to people that we're all still here and it's all still going, great. If you're going to Fitball, put a yes badge on. As long as you're not expecting to chin someone and have a conversation with them about independence. So if you think about it that way, yes is fine for everything excepting opening the door for a conversation.
When we go out leafleting for Keep Scotland the Grand, because there's a few this year that have done that, and we've been leafleting at the Ellon Farmers Market and the likes, we deliberately try and go out debadged.
Listen, seriously, this is just odd, but it's not odd. People that wear badges are weird. I mean, just to profile it, people that wear badges are weird. Did you look at what badges are? They're always true believers. It doesn't matter whether it's fucking smash hits or remain or leave. Normal people don't wear badges. So one of the things that I got taught just about day one of PR school, and it wasn't PR school, it was when I was in work, so I graduated as a journalist for a while, then I went straight into political strategy. One of the first things that someone taught me is a politician says never ever wear a badge in a telly. Because if you wear any kind of badge in a telly, the entire public will never see your face. They're that busy squinting to see what your badge is, which you can't see on the screen. It's just a distraction. Never wear a badge. So just as one of those things, you see someone coming down the road with death metal badges on, their biker jacket. You're like, right, death metal fan. Or you're either that way or that way. It depends whether you share the view of the badges. Generally, people don't wear badges. Not once they're kind of like adults. Just genuinely, kids like badges. Adults, as a general rule, don't wear badges. So if you want to mark yourself out, there's nothing wrong with being different. And I dress like this now because one of my members of my team says, "You're 45, stop dressing like a teenager." Me and my missus is a blue-haired Mexican filmmaker. We live a bohemian life. Back at home, I don't dress like this, right? But I know what message I want to give when I go out. So we'll do crazy, dumbass stuff in the house. I'm not saying be conformist. I'm just saying that if I wanted to open a conversation with somebody, I wouldn't wear one of the skull t-shirts that Christina got me for my birthday 2 years ago. Just dress for the job you want. Which incidentally, have you heard that saying, dress for the job you want? Which was really, I saw someone recently saying, that's why Ivanka Trump's always wearing funeral clothes. But genuinely, think about the message you want to give to the person you're engaging with. If you want them to do the work, then I think I'm largely making a mistake. If you want to make it easy for them to come to you, then think about what makes it easy to come for you. And I'm not saying being dull or boring. It's great when you've got somebody who's just that, you see that person as a bit of an eccentric and you think, I'd like to go and talk to him, whatever. A bit of that's fine. There's not many of us that can pull that off. Not sure I can. You're probably better taking your badges off, putting a V-neck on, and just going out quietly and saying, hi.
You're out looking for votes, then basically you're at a job interview. You need to be wearing your smart suit and looking like the person that they want to hire.
Well, no, not smart.
That's what the difference is.
It's not smart suit. That's the old politics. What you need to dress like is them. You need to look like them. That's who we talk to. We all talk to people that look like us. I don't wear business suits anymore. One of the joys of running a think tank. I no longer identify with other people who wear business suits. I get to dress a bit more smart casual most of the time. We all want to be with people who seem to be like us. So you are as long as you can pull it off. I was about to say you want to talk to a fisherman dressed like a fisherman. No, obviously not. I play a fucking idiot dressed as a fisherman. It's got to be something natural. If you want to talk to somebody, it's kind of saying, I'm interested in you, if you take time to be a little bit like them. Don't get hung up on this. Be yourself. Just be the version of yourself that you think is most likely to open the door. There was one more. Are you just exhausted me? Regretting me?
Do you think Brexit will actually happen?
Can I go back to the Aberdeen? Right, on balance, even now, I think the second referendum is a marginal outsider. If you've been reading The Guardian, you'd imagine that everyone Labour's desperate for this second referendum. There are probably enough Labour rebels along with Tory rebels to dump a second referendum. And here's the thing, so I had a couple of, when in the middle of the fever with that virus, I had a couple of moments of revelation. One of them was, dear God, Theresa May is this far away from going down as one of the world's great political strategists. And I know this sounds daft, but she's got a deal that literally nobody wants. And she's on the verge now of either all collapsing and being remembered as the world's biggest failure, or actually riding this through at the end, pulling off it's this or no deal, folks say, Jesus, vote for it, in which case she's an actual genius. You cannot say anything but. It might have been clumsy, but it worked. Winning is a big deal. So my answer to this is, I don't know. I don't think anybody who says they know do know. I would point out that I've never seen a circumstance where Westminster hasn't got a majority for anything. And I've said this before. So you went down to Westminster and said, who wants a cup of tea? You wouldn't get a majority. To be breaking the factions, it'd be milk no sugar, milk 2 sugar, no, I want coffee, and quite a lot of them would just say, okay, So, there's no majority. You'd be amazed. It was one of my amazing discoveries down at Westminster when I went down there to work for a while. Somebody early on says, check the toilets. I was dusting the top of them. It's a high pressure environment down there. It's not mainly the politicians. But, so no, what's happened with the way that everything's factionalised over Brexit, I find it very, very difficult to make a prediction. I think, I'm looking at it just now, I think the most likely immediate outcome is probably a Article 50 extension. When things don't work, you usually buy yourself some more time. I suspect that might be the outcome. But then after that, I have a feeling that I think the most likely outcome, not by much, is a revised May version getting through. Some revised version of her proposal getting through. My gut says that's marginally it. I will definitely say that among the many things that I scream at the Guardian at every day is the idea that a referendum versus the result puts this to bed. So if you read 9 out of 10 Guardian columnists, they will say, what we really need is a second vote and put this away and forget it. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. You're going to go back, you're going to have a second referendum, and England's angriest people are going to be told, you know what, fuck you, we're not doing it even though we'd vote. I'm nervous about what happens if there's a reverse vote. I just look at it and I say, I can't see a way it goes well, but then I can't see a way anything goes well.
There's not a majority for anything though. There's not a majority in the whole of the UK for any one way forward. And Westminster is representative of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a majority in Westminster for no deal, Theresa May's deal, Jeremy Corbyn's deal, or Remain.
And
Hope Remain. There's not a majority anywhere for it.
And so in the complete mystery of what the hell's going to go on, can I just come back to where it almost started tonight? See that neat segue, which is, if we give the impression that after a yes vote, we end up in this situation, if there's a whiff that vote yes, vote independence in the next referendum, and the next thing you know, there'll be a 3-year debate about what did we just vote for. If people think that's likely, I don't think they win. I don't think there's any chance.
So how do you get SNP back in the driving seat then? Because they've certainly a list for the past, well, basically since Alex Salmon stepped in.
I'm just going
What's going,
I'm not
send me home happy and tell me what we do there.
I'm not going to share my opinions on this. I don't think it's even more constructive. I'll just tell you this. I'm about ideas, what I can do in my part of the world. I've written about it, I've travelled the country talking about it. We spent 2 years doing policy work to backfill which wasn't getting done. I've spoken to everybody in the party, any level, high, low. I don't know what more to
It's
do.
absolutely shocking that you're not driving in that with you. It's bloody ridiculous.
And all I'm going to say is,
Competence down there.
all I'm going to say is, okay, the other. So there were 2 moments when I woke up in the middle of the night in a fever sweat with moments of clarity. The other one was, it may be the case that until the SNP's membership takes a greater degree of control of the party, we stay in the logjam.
They didn't give us all.
How can you do that? They don't let you.
That's the same argument as Labour's having though, isn't it?
I could tell you, but then it'd be like treason. You can always beat a machine. All machines can be beat or tamed. The first thing that you have to do is organise and be clear what it is that you want. And if that's just really difficult. I have private opinions that I share with me and a very small group of my friends who know what I actually think about what's going on and why it's going on and what's happening. There's an awful lot of information I have that I will not share because it's not good to know. I don't like doing things that make anything worse in the movement. All these reasons, I don't want to say any much more about this, but I am going to say this. I have waited to see leadership, and what I have seen is a kind of narcissistic desperation to not have any negative floating around. Right, so what seems to be the thing is, at any given moment, what makes us look best for the next 10 minutes. Now that's a terrible, terrible way to run anything. Very early on in politics, when I was down at Westminster, one of the first things that I realised is, every politician since ancient Greece has known this, and they all still do it, which is, if you turn round to try and put out every minor fire that breaks out, big fires will break out in front of you.
Absolutely.
And everybody should have understood by now, sometimes you just got to take one in the chin. I was explaining this to somebody else earlier today. One of the big mistakes of political strategy since the Blair era, and this is my trait, this is my world, one of the big mistakes is you should try and never have a bad day. So whenever there's a bad day, spin it. Challenge it, knock it down. But I'm going to tell you this, there are always bad days. You would do a lot better to take a few of them in the chin and focus on, so if you're trying to stop today being a bad day, you're not doing the things that sets tomorrow up as a good day. And sometimes you've just got to take it on the chin and take a bad day on the chin and stay focused on the path. So it's that thing, if you've got a plan and you're getting buffeted side to side and you start reacting side to side, you stop going forward. It's just a bike. It's like a bike. If you're cycling a bike, you've got to keep going forward in the direction that you're going, and you've got to stop worrying about what everybody thinks about you all the time. I contend nobody looks brilliant on a bike. You've just got to go. That's what you've got to do. And the simple answer to this is that I think the strategy was wrong from the beginning, and I think what's happened since is there has been a long process of trying to cover up the failure of the early, not cover up, trying to make it not obvious that there was this early failure of strategy. So rather than saying, we got this wrong, and now what we're going to do is this, there's been this process of, we didn't get it wrong, we're just keeping it secret for now. So there's this, we'll tell you tomorrow, we'll tell you tomorrow.
I think up here they don't even think they got it wrong.
It's very hard to believe that you got it wrong. Calling a referendum in Brexit morning was a mistake. It was just a mistake, there was no rush, there was no need. Shouldn't have been done. We've been in the back foot since that happened. The instant that happened, we've been in the back foot. It was a mistake. Should have taken more calmly, there was plenty of time. We could have stopped and waited to see what the polls were doing. There was no rush, there was no benefit on doing it in day one. We would have known what was going on. I cannot help but feel that we came out utterly rashly and then postponed the climb down for far too long, and then did the climb down, and when we did the climb down, we didn't replace it with anything.
No.
And at that point, it should have been, hands up, that didn't work, we made a mistake, now this is how we repair it. And that's not what's happened. So it needs to get a grip, there needs to be a grip taken on what's going on and where it's going. And I'll say this again, it's not that complicated. One, the government needs to get itself in a position where it's winning 2021 because it looks purposeful, like it's got a mission, like it's there because it wants to change things and not just because it thinks it deserves it. Two, we've got to look at the case for independence because I'm sorry that I've gone on about this, we cannot win without a case for independence. And three, we need to think about how we pull everything together, add it all to, and turn it into an effective campaign. These things have to be done. We need to find our roles in it. Now, I remember saying earlier on I keep a lot of correspondees. I do. I want to find out what's going on. And I keep emailing every SNP conference, what's the chances of something happening to push us towards a conclusion in currency? And it doesn't happen, it gets not SWAC doesn't accept the resolution, it goes on, it goes on, it goes on. And this was the moment of this was the moment of clarity that I had when I woke up in my fever dream, which was, this is not one I can, it's nothing I can do. This has to be the mass foot soldiers of the SNP need to compel it, well, that or a senior group of, say, elected politicians or elders. One of those two groups has to compel this to happen, because it's not happening by itself. And this is where, when I say clarity, my clarity was a degree of despair. We are stuck until that happens. Until this happens, we're stuck. And what pains me in all of this is, I mean, I'm still all the time walking into people saying, "Oh, McAlpine, you're such a Cassandra." They're announcing a referendum on Tuesday. I've been told that for 2 years basically. I do these meetings quite a bit, and someone comes up to me and says, "You're such a Cassandra, Robin. It's all going to be fine. They're going to announce it on Tuesday. We'll hold it in 3 months and we'll just win." And I'm not joking. On a couple of occasions, I've had people really angrily telling me that I'm an idiot. Why can't I keep my mouth shut? Because we're 2 months away from a referendum. Now, I've known since Brexit morning, well, I suspected since Brexit morning, I certainly knew within a week, a referendum there has been no moment since 2014 when we've been anywhere near another referendum. And yet, it has been helpful to keep a lot of people thinking there might be. And that's what I mean by to keep yourself from looking like a mistake was made. You're sacrificing the best interests of everything else for that purpose. It would be better if the moment when we will get out of this, the moment when this will change, is the moment that everybody understands where there's no imminent referendum.
Yeah.
When that happens, I think only at that point can we see the next step. I've been meaning to write about this, and I think what it is, I hinted at it earlier, phase 3 of the independence movement. I think the next step is, if phase 1 was what I call butterfly rebellion, the original campaign wasn't brilliant, and everybody just took control of it, locally, nationally, everybody just took control of it, and it turned into that amazing clinjam of fabulousness that was 2014.
Yeah.
That was phase 1. Phase 2, let's call it the imperial phase. It all became about management and control. What we need is phase 3, when it becomes civic again.
Return of the Jedi. That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Return of the Jedi, I don't know what it would be. It's more like return, it's not phase 1 again. It's not 1,000 million little discoordinated things. It's this idea of it going from political to civic. It's a civic campaign that wins us. And that, I think, is the phase 3 that takes it forward. But we're stuck because there are just enough people who are sympathetic to that idea but don't think we should go down that road just now because there may be a referendum soon.
I think you can even go one step further back, make it not political, and start sowing seeds that people don't even know about independence, particularly locally. Because that's what, when I finished with the SNP, I've been just starting conversations with people that I know that will pass on conversations, and using like what I'm using with my group of people I'm working on now is National Health Service. So using real life examples, because I happen to have a cute grandson who's deaf, cochlear implants, we know people that we communicate with in England that have been sold up to the NHS, their audiology service has been sold up to the NHS, and they're suddenly not getting the service. So you've got a kid that's been given hearing, all of a sudden losing their hearing again, and I use this sort of photograph. That's my story.
I've got a 20-minute talk as part of this. It's one of the things I've ever talked about, which encapsulates what you're talking about. and I'm going to faint if I even start it. So, just suffice to say that the more you talk in the abstract,
Yeah.
the more people drift off. The more you talk in the concrete, the more they come back in. Democracy is abstract, housing, energy, health are concrete. The idea that we can win this by saying, don't you want to have the right to make decisions about the place you live where you are, like the last time round, I suppose. Do you want your hospital to be great? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Abstract tends not to change people's minds. The concrete does. The short bit, okay, I will just say this bit and then I'm stopping. And it won't, not 20 minutes. Someone asked me, how do you do this? Okay, so we did this as the first testing group, and the way someone described it to us is, if we're really effective, we invent a time machine that brings the benefits of independence to us now. So imagine you could go forward 5 years and bring back remnants, artefacts of a successful independent Scotland. It's a good way to put it. Making it real, making it concrete. The example that I give all the time is this one. We can talk a lot about the benefit to jobs if Scotland was independent. You know what would be a lot better is, with 6 months to go, when the referendums are on the cards, the Scottish Government puts an advert in every national newspaper which says, in the event of Scottish independence, we will have to recruit 20,000 civil servants. That's 20,000 jobs for people in a salary between 21 and 45,000 pounds. Because of this 20,000 jobs that we can fill quickly, write in now for a prospectus to put yourself on the list for one of the 20,000 jobs. Every single parent sitting with a kid who's just graduated and is filling in their application for these 20,000 jobs is vested in a real outcome. Every single person with a pen in their hand that went for one of those prospectus jobs, this is real for them. We win the more that we take these abstract concepts of the power of independence, turn them into real things and project them into people's lives now. That's the single most startlingly effective thing that it's possible for us to do. And again, I could talk another 20 minutes about it, but I'm stopped because I'm going to faint. Thanks.